if it was all the same, it wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah. Peter sent that email earlier.
Yeah,
so.
I saw it this afternoon.
You guys can go ahead and get started if you want to.
Okay, welcome to the Charter Township of Van Buren Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. This time calling the meeting to order. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Sherry Budd,
Here.
Bernie Grant,
Here.
Peter Creel is excused, Medina Atchison is excused, Jackson Paul,
Here.
Jeff Jar,
Here.
Brian Cullen.
Here. At this time, we have in front of us an agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have any action concerning the agenda?
Through the chair. Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the agenda as presented. Any comments or discussions on the issue? Seeing none, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same. Okay, moving ahead, minutes. We have with us the minutes from the meeting of October 22nd, 2025. Do I have any action concerning the minutes of the meeting?
Mr. Chair, move to approve the minutes from the meeting of the regular meeting of October 22nd, 2025 as submitted.
Support.
Motion and support to approve the minutes as presented from October 22nd, 2025. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, correspondence and announcements. Excuse me. City of Belleville has their planning commission meetings for November and December. November is tomorrow night, November 13th, and their December meeting is December 11th. So anybody interested in attending those meetings, you're welcome to. Also, Sumter Township has a planning commission meeting coming tomorrow night, 11/13, which is Thursday, November 13th, and you're welcome to attend those as well. Do we have any other correspondence or announcements?
Chairman, I have no further correspondence and announcements.
Okay. General public comment at this time. Anybody from the public may come forward and introduce yourself and make comment about any item not on the agenda this evening. Any comments? Any comments? Okay, moving ahead. We do not have any public hearing or old business. We are into new business. Item number 1, case 22-012, Cahal Trucking, amended site plan approval. A request by applicant Davenport Brothers Construction on behalf of owner Sadukdev Singh to amend the approved site plan for a repair facility. The site is located at 6100 Schooner Drive. At this time, presentation from the staff. Director Akers.
Thank you very much. So Chahal, I just kind of want to go through a timeline of this project, kind of explain what's going on and, and discuss it with the planning commission. So Chahal Trucking was previously granted site plan approval and special land use approval in August, September 2022, and final site plan approval in February 2023. Despite receiving final site plan approval in February 23, Wayne County final approval was not granted until March of 2024. The applicant began construction of the facility in 2024 and has recently completed construction. As part of the final closeout process, the township recently completed our final inspection of the site, including our planning site inspection. During the planning site inspection, it was noticed that the frontage landscaping had not been fully installed. When this was brought up to the applicant, they had demonstrated via review letters that Wayne County had required them to remove the frontage landscaping as it was within the 25-foot buffer strips of the detention ponds that were installed along the frontage of the site, which is part of Wayne County's engineering standards. So at this time, all the site infrastructure was installed, including the detention ponds. Wayne County standards prohibit the installation of trees within those 25-foot buffer strips of the detention ponds. And due to this, the applicant is unable to comply with our frontage landscaping standards because the 25-foot buffer strip extends the road right-of-way line. In this scenario, we have limited options to consider. So at this time, the staff is asking the Planning Commission to consider this request so that way we may close the project out. In the future, in order to avoid the scenario, staff will be avoiding granting final site plan approvals until the applicant is closer to obtaining their Wayne County approvals to make sure that these situations and issues are addressed further ahead of time. So in the packet, the staff, we have attached the approved landscaping plan, the Wayne County review letter from May of 2023, where the applicant was instructed to remove all the landscaping, and the updated drawings which depict what the current landscaping situation is for your consideration. I was asked prior to the meeting to get a number of trees that were omitted from the site, and I apologize, I had a couple things come up. I haven't quite completed that, but I am noting from what I have counted that there is at least 17 trees which have been removed along the Greenbelt buffering site. Some of the plantings are in slightly different locations, but it looks like, based on what I've been able to count so far, and I apologize, that there are 17 trees deficient on the Greenbelt landscaping. Looking through the difference between the two drawings, they are required to provide for frontage landscaping. They're in the originally approved site plan, they were required to provide 5 deciduous trees, and then they were required to provide 2 ornamental trees and 41 shrubs. In the updated drawing, it does show that they provide 6 deciduous trees, 3 ornamental trees, and then 48 shrubs. Some of those shrubs were counted along the rear of the detention pond outside of that 25-foot buffer area. So it did look like, and I apologize for the confusion, it did look like some of the frontage landscaping requirements were met. It was the deficiencies were located along the Greenbelt buffering landscaping per the plans. So I apologize. With that, I will conclude my summary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Does not appear so.
Then, commission, what is your desire at this point? Comments, questions?
Sure. The only comment I would make is, I think they can't put in the trees. I mean, and pretty much from that standpoint, I mean, it's required by Wayne County. We can't make them do something that's required by them. The only thing I'm a little confused on is overall count, though. Other than that, I mean, if they can't put those trees in, that's understandable. But overall count, where were we at with everything else?
I believe as I'm counting right now, it looks like they are at least 17 trees less than what they were originally approved.
And those are all around the 25-foot.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So if you look at some of the, because I was counting some of the plantings prior to the meeting. If you look at the areas where the detention ponds are on the right side of the page, if you look at the areas that are adjacent to it, there were some trees that were omitted along the north and the south side of the 2 detention ponds.
Okay.
It looks like there were some plantings added on the north end, but the majority of those are shrubs, they're not trees. So that appears to be where the most of the plantings are missing.
And so did they meet the rest of the count required of the other types? There's some evergreens and shrubs and.
It appears they met the parking lot landscaping requirements. if we use their calculations that they provided in their drawing for their frontage landscape requirements and count some of the trees that are, on the west side of the detention pond, looks like based on their calculations, they are able to meet the frontage landscaping requirements. It's just the green belt. And I mean, you'll notice in the two drawings that they're much lighter on plantings in the front because of that buffering area for the detention ponds. They did squeeze in a couple oak trees, and they squeezed in some shrubs along the corners where there was some room. But that's primarily the area where a lot of the plantings went away.
Mr. Chair? We typically don't run into this problem because in most cases, the detention ponds are in the rear of the site. We have had maybe one odd site where we have had the detention pond in front, but it has had ample room between the right-of-way line and the 25-foot buffer. In this case, the buffer lines up right with the right-of-way. So in the future, like Director Akers said, we will make sure that if any site is designed with the detention pond in front, that after the 25-foot buffer, there is an additional 10 feet available in order to put those greenbelt plantings in, and we don't run into the situation. We haven't run into this before, but lessons learned that next time it has to be 25 plus 10, cannot just be 25.
I mean, from the standpoint of positioning the detention ponds, I think it's actually nice to have it out front of the building because then it pushes the frontage back. I know it's dependent somewhat on grading, but.
We would just prefer on industrial sites to have more greenery along the street itself with the
I
building
agree.
setback.
Yep.
In this case, next time we will make sure that if a detention pond is like this, that they design it in a manner that gives that adequate room for us to get that landscaping in the front in.
I agree.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jarrett.
Question for staff. Refresh my memory, were these ponds part of the original construction for this lot, or were they an existing draining pond on the lot?
Newly developed site. Chahal Trucking was constructed from a bare site. They started from ground zero.
Were the ponds and the location of the ponds on the set of, they were on the set of final site plans that
Yes.
we approved?
Yes.
Ponds did reduce in size between then and between the final iteration. If you look at the pond location on the approved, on the Van Buren Township approved site plan, you'll see that the pond was reduced in size on the north side of the driveway.
And it appears that that smaller pond to the north, where there used to be graded pond, there's now a flat seeded lawn? Is that what I'm seeing on this, I see on the, see what, yeah, you see what I'm saying?
There is seeded lawn. There's a swale that runs through the middle of that area as well.
And that, on the original plan, that was supposed to be dug down into a detention pond or a retention pond?
Yes.
So that's an area that could potentially be used to make up for the trees that aren't on the property that were supposed to be on the property? Wait, I understand we don't have the full count of what the deficiency is.
So the one positive thing to look at this site is, even though we would have preferred they handled it in a different manner, if you look at the rear of the site where all the truck parking is, they reduced the amount of pavement and they brought it closer compared to the final site plan approval. So they have reduced impervious surface on the site, which means there is more grass area on the west end of the site. If you see, they pulled it back a little bit, the pavement area, so that basically at least ensures that we have more green space than not, even if it's not trees right up front.
So, question for consultants or staff. What should have the applicant done when they realized that their site plan was not going to be compliant?
They should have came back to us to review it, make modifications, and get approval prior to proceeding.
Right.
Planning Commission requires at least tentative approval letter from Wayne County before you grant final site plan approval. In this case, we knew the applicant was along in the process when final site plan approval was granted, but they didn't have that clear note from Wayne County, which resulted in a change afterwards, which they should have come before the Planning Commission, ideally.
So then, staff's recommendation is that going forward, we should always make sure to have the Wayne County approval before we grant final?
Least have it where it's, you know, a cross your Ts, dot your Is letter from the county. Am I speaking into the microphone? Can everybody hear
Can't hear
me?
you, actually.
It's not very loud.
It's so.
Hear any of us? Oh,
No, we want to make sure that they at least have a cross your Ts and dot your Is letter from the county. They'll approve everything in concept. It's just minor grammatical things on the plans and labeling and that type of stuff.
when we do our site plan review letters, we always note on there that plantings along the detention pond are subject to Wayne County approval. So if we had known that this would happen, we would have sort of made sure that that additional area was available, because county has final call or say on what those plantings are. So there are some lessons learned from it, which next time we will make sure that we,
So, I have a question. If they owe, basically they cut out 17 trees, does that mean they still owe 17 trees to some degree to the township to plant somewhere else?
trees, if they are taken down as part of the tree removal permit, then they owe the township for this. This was part of required landscaping, which was subject to county approval, and county said no. So they technically don't, under the ordinance standards, owe it if the county is not going to allow them to put it.
So a follow-up question with that is, so basically our landscape ordinance is subject to the Wayne County's approval?
Only for the detention pond area.
I know that, which I understand that you have to, but basically that doesn't override the fact that they're supposed to provide the required amount.
Can I ask just a quick interjection? How many trees did they take out as part of the initial build? They had to clear the land, they had to take out some trees, those trees had to be replaced. Were those trees, are we still at that replacement? Is that what you're asking?
That's a good question,
Yeah, I think
a better
that's-
way to put it.
I'd have to go back and look through the review letters. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I mean, I can, and I apologize. I don't have the counts in front of me right now, but, you know, we certainly can get those.
Yeah.
if that's
We do
okay.
make a clear distinction that required landscaping is above and beyond replacement. They cannot be double counted. So if they were required to replace trees that they removed, that replacement count still needs to be met. Don't care where. It has to be put somewhere on the
Right,
site.
I think that's a good point.
Replacement cannot be just passed. Replacement must be put in. Required is above and beyond. They are in required landscaping.
I know normally when we do site plan review, we require them to itemize the landscaping requirements on the actual landscaping
we do.
plan. So, and normally replacement trees are, in normal circumstances, a separate itemized
Always.
provision, which I didn't see anything for replacement trees on there. Because I know this was an existing industrial park.
Yes. The site, I believe, I don't have my original letter, but the site was not heavily wooded to begin with. It was one of those sparse lots on Schooner Drive.
Required a survey in order to make those counts happen. right?
Most of their trees, even in the original plan, were located on the west side of the site. If you look, the west side is wooded, and I think they had decided not to disturb that area. So that was significantly left untouched, the main wooded portions. But we would be happy to go back and pull out the original review letters and see, because there would be a summary of tree removal in that.
The pond to the north on this diagram is significantly smaller than what was approved by the township. I know that township engineering has to weigh in on things like detention ponds and drainage. Did Fishbeck, our consultants for engineering, weigh in on this smaller pond design?
I'd have to go back and look at their notes. I assume they did, but I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
I don't think that having it's dug, it's built. I don't think having them, move the ponds or re-engineer or fill it in so that they can get the trees in the front is reasonable. It was a mistake. I'm sure I reviewed these plans, given the time frame. I didn't catch the mistake. We didn't catch the mistake. Mistakes sometimes happen, but it doesn't absolve the applicant from meeting the requirement for their trees, and it doesn't absolve them from meeting their township engineering requirement. My recommendation would be to send this back for just a little more review. Let's figure out how many trees they're deficient and if they can be placed on the property correctly. And somewhere, it looks like there's some seeded lawn. Assuming the seeded lawn passes, passes engineering because that should have been a detention pond, then I don't think I'd have a problem approving it for closeout, as long as those two loose ends were tied up. With drainage, I don't want to have a situation where Wayne County maybe dictated one thing, but it doesn't match the township standard and it floods a neighbor. I feel like caution is important on that.
We are, and just for, stormwater is always kind of an unusual, because we have different standards than Wayne
I
County
know.
does, and they differ, and actually, to be honest, we're moving towards mirroring
Yeah.
Wayne County standards, because ultimately, they have the control over that.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll make sure everything gets addressed.
Back before you, Ron will take a look at the engineering, of course, with Fishbeck. From a planning standpoint, I will have a review for you on what the tree count was, what the replacement trees were, and if required landscaping is missing, if it can be accommodated elsewhere on the site.
That would
They
be
do
fair.
have the room for that.
That
so.
would be fair.
And if I could also ask, when you do speak to the applicant who isn't here tonight, I recommend it to the applicant personally, but let the applicant know that if a change of plan comes up again for any reason after final, it's on them to come back and bring it to us. I know we would have been reasonable about it once we realized what the issue was. It wouldn't have been a big deal. It's only a big deal now. Now it's going to require 2 meetings instead of 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will absolutely do that.
But anything else?
Anything else?
A formal motion to table it till the December meeting. That way it'll be back on your agenda. Thank you.
We have anybody from the public with comment? Anybody from the public with comment? Okay, commissioners, your desire on this item.
I'm assuming the, agree,
Tabling, yeah.
table?
Yeah.
Postpone?
Yeah, probably a postponement, right? Mr. Chair, at this time, I would move in the case 22012 Shalal Trucking amended site plan approval to postpone the decision on the request.
Oh, I'm gonna step out and make sure the cable room
Oh.
is for us.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry to the recording secretary. Let me just start that over. In case 22012 Shalal Trucking amended site plan approval, I move that we postpone a decision on the request until such time as staff can work with the applicant and determine the required amount of trees for the site, and that the redesigned detention ponds pass Van Buren Township engineering standards.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Can we do this by, do we have to do this by roll call, or can we do it by voice vote on a postpone?
Should do it by roll.
By roll call? Okay, roll call, please.
Jackson Paul,
Yes, to postpone.
Bernie Grant,
Yes.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Cullen.
Yes. So the motion to postpone carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jar?
staff members stepped out to see what was going on with the microphones. If we can't be heard out in the audience, it means even if we shout, we won't be heard on the cable broadcast. So that's where he went.
All right, he's back. Okay. Moving ahead. Item number 2. Case 25020, River Park 2 condos, site plan extension approval. A request by owner Michael Funari, Tiburon Holdings, to extend approval of a condominium site plan approved in 2004. The site is located on the south side of Ecorse Road between Morton Taylor and Haggerty Roads. Presentation by township staff. Director Akers.
Thank you. I will turn the presentation over to Vidya Krishnan.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening, Commissioners. This is a slightly unusual case. The request before you is for Mr. Furnari to develop about 74 condominium units in the form of 5 attached townhomes on approximately 7 acres of undeveloped land within the River Park condominium development that was originally approved in 2004. This is located on the south side of Ecos Road between Morton Taylor and Haggerty Roads. Now, originally, when this River Park condominium was approved, it received final condominium site plan approval for the construction of 180 units. That was 66 townhouses within 15 buildings and 144 manor homes within 10 buildings on the 25.26-acre land. And that approval was in January of 2004. Subsequently, the Township Board granted final condominium site plan approval and approval to the master deed and bylaws. Now, the project was partially constructed and then halted when the housing market crash happened in 2008. Mr. Fernari purchased this entire property, the whole condominium, in 2011. In 2012, he split the parcel to separate the built portion of River Park condominiums from the unbuilt portion of land. And that unbuilt portion is 7 acres. Last year, Mr. Furnari contacted the township with a new proposal to build on this unbuilt portion of land and the plan submitted was for the construction of 74 condominium units on this parcel. We made him aware that since such a long time has passed since the original plan approval, any new plan he proposes at this time must comply with the zoning ordinance standards as it stands today. So he subsequently did submit a full site plan set in April of this year, which we did review, and we provided extensive written comments. Our review letter that was dated June 10th, we had a staff review report. It determined that the materials that were submitted did not address concerns that were raised and definitely did not meet the zoning ordinance regulation as it stands today in multiple aspects. Anywhere from building length to size of the patio to size of the garage. There were just too many. The gap was just too far between what our ordinance requires today and what it required, what was presented. So he discussed it with Director Akers, and Director Akers provided the applicant with an option of developing the remainder of the unbuilt land according to the 2004 plan without making any changes to how it stood. The plan that was approved in 2004, he was offered an option to pick up the plan as it stood and finish the development up. Now, the township in the past few years has had a few requests for portions of subdivisions that remained unbuilt all over these years being completed. So Mr. Furnari has indicated that he intends to develop the remaining land per the originally approved site plan, which is dated November 26th of 2003, and that will be in accordance with the ordinance regulations that were there in place at the time of approval at the time. So the zoning ordinance does not include provisions for what happens to an incomplete site condominium. It only says once the condominium is approved, you shall build it, but there is really no clause in there that says what happens if a condominium is left half unbuilt, and now what happens to somebody who wants to finish it up. So defaulting to the provisions of section 12.207, the original approval has long since expired. So the applicant is coming back before you seeking an extension of the originally approved plan. Now, at the time Mr. Furnari had first approached the township last year, Director Powers was here, and he provided him with copies of the approved condominium site plan that was on file, including the master deed and bylaws that were dated 2004, and subsequent amendment to the master deed dated 2012, when the unbuilt portion of the land was actually removed from the original condominium plan. So if the site plan approval is extended for the original site condominium plan, the applicant will be required to comply with the original approved plan set for the following items: the access, the circulation and roadways, the sidewalks, the landscaping, the building architecture, amenities, lighting, signage, all of them must be exactly as was previously approved. Now, going back to 2004, even though it is a plan that is over 21 years old, the development at least will remain in sync with what is already built. If you maintain the architectural continuity of the entire development, it will not look like a new development pieced together with an existing development. It will provide for continuity of what already exists. The stormwater system currently in place was designed to support the development of the entire land, but we will defer to the township engineer to make sure that it does comply and whether any new Wayne County requirements will be applicable after all these years. Now, it's unclear if the condominium association and the master deed and bylaws for the current existing portion will be separate from, or a new condominium bylaws will be, master deed and bylaws will be set up for this new portion. Even though it is a continuation of it, when the master deed was amended in 2012, it basically removed the unbuilt. So you got to change it again. Either you include it or you set up new master deed and bylaws for this portion. So we will need those documents to be reviewed by the township attorney. So the applicant's proposal for development of the unbuilt land that they had presented was very far in compliance with the ordinance standards. It was really not a viable proposal. It is not something we felt comfortable bringing in front of the Planning Commission. It's not something you would ever entertain. So the option to complete construction per the plans originally approved to ensure consistency in the entire development appears reasonable. Subject to any other concerns, items that are identified by Township Administration, Engineer, and Township Attorney, we would recommend an approval of the extension of the original site plan approval for River Park 2 condominium development. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Director Akers?
Yes, I did just have one other thing to add. So, and Mr. Fulnari, when he gives his presentation, will be able to speak in greater detail to it. But one concern that was brought up prior to the
Can't hear
meeting
him.
was with
We're having trouble hearing you down here.
Okay. So one concern that was brought up prior to the meeting was with regards to if these parcels are split off from the original condo development, you have common infrastructure and how the maintenance of that common infrastructure will be funded. So Mr. Furnari did provide a copy of the First Amendment to the master deed, which removed the parcels from the development, or put them as unplatted parcels. There are provisions in there for cost recovery for those new areas that are built, so that way the homeowners association can get money for the maintenance of common areas like the roads and the stormwater system and that type of stuff. So there are those provisions there. I just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you. Does engineering have anything to say about the stormwater system at this point?
No, Mr. Kamer is not here this evening.
Yes.
So I have nothing to add about the engineering. of the
A
site.
small addition, if it would help the Planning Commission. The biggest difference in architectural standards from 2004 to now is our ordinance currently requires a minimum patio size of 100 square feet to be provided for every condominium unit. That is the current regulations. There was no such requirement in 2004. The second thing is there was no minimum garage size requirement, correct? Ron? We do have a minimum garage size requirement now. We have to have a 2-car garage. That's a requirement for any condominium that is built today. That minimum requirement was not there in 2004 in the original plan set. So those are two distinct, very obvious differences compared to today's regulations, to the regulations then.
Okay. The applicant, introduce yourself to us, please.
Michael Fenari with Tiburon Holdings. Director and your consultant did a fine job explaining the situation. I do want to point out the site is completely developed besides topping of one side road. So all the infrastructure is in, all the roads are in per the original site plan that was approved in 2004. So we're just looking to build what's existing out there and complete, a foreclosed development back in 2009, over 20-some years ago, just trying to complete this out now at this point.
Okay. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Through the chair, I do have just questions. When does the site plan approval typically expire for something like this?
For a regular site plan expires 1 year after planning commission approval unless an applicant demonstrates that they are actively in the process. They can come and request an extension before you. The ordinance either gives provisions for 1 or 2 extensions to be granted by the planning commission, which you have done on the other projects. But maximum any project is ever extended to since planning commission approval is probably 2, maximum 3 years, no more than that. But then this is not a site plan, this is a condominium development, and condominium regulations are a separate chapter in our zoning ordinance that deal with everything to do with condominiums, and that does not have an expiry clause, making this whole thing a little bit more confusing.
Just Commissioner, again, this site's already developed per the site plan. The roads are in. It's not like we have to put any more infrastructure or build the roads. It's developed. The site plan is developed.
So you say that, what you just said is that it doesn't expire?
There is no
We're kind of-
provision in it,
But
yeah.
we're kind of saying we're going to give them to be given them an extension, even though maybe there is no expiration.
So the condominium portion of the zoning ordinance does not address this. That doesn't mean there is no expiry. So by default, we went to the site plan provision area, which is 12.207, just to make sure that we are not setting a precedent for people saying, if I'm going to pick up a plan that is 20-year-old and just come in here and start building. We want to have a system. The condominium leaves that as an unanswered question. It doesn't say it shall never expire. Therefore, we default into assuming that it has expired and it needs your approval.
Okay. Just second question is, the parcel's been split. How does that affect the drawings?
It still continues to remain one development. It is just split into 2. Mr. Fernari does have to address, are you going to please make it into one HOA again, or is that going to be a separate HOA with its own master deed and bylaws? That's not understood at this point.
We're undecided right now, but we are going to do either go back into the existing association or form a new association. So just give you a little background. What happens with condominium developments and undeveloped portions in the Michigan Condo Act, if any undeveloped property sets stagnant for more than 7 years without doing an amendment to the master deed, the property actually becomes general common element where then you can never develop it. This happened throughout the state of Michigan. So a lot of these parcels that were vacant that didn't do some type of reworking in the master deed bylaws actually became general common element where you couldn't build anything, and it just became a part of the association, the vacant land. So we did this separation, and we put clauses in there, as Director said, shared maintenance agreement, cross-access easement agreements. It's already in place, that it's fair both ways.
So, Mr. Fernari, once you have finished building it, would you be combining the 2 again or still maintaining them as 2 separate parcels?
Unknown right now, but
Okay.
I'll have that determination. Like I said, I'll provide documents. If there's a new master deed and bylaws, we'll present it to the township, or a letter stating that we're going to go into the existing condominium association. We've done it both ways. So in the recession, we probably bought 15 of these that we call the fractured condos. So I know quite a bit about condominium law. Unfortunately, I got an expensive learning lesson on this. But again, we've done it both ways. We've either gone in association or we formed our own. We prefer just to, go back in the existing association, which it helps them out too with fees and dues because they're newer units, less maintenance. So they get some extra income for supporting their association.
Anybody else? Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if, since we have the applicant, if the applicant could explain what is the issue with attaining compliance with our ordinances today?
Oh, it's a
I
lot.
mean, sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I could just explain my question for a minute. It sounds to me like, it's a additional construction. It would normally be done to today's standards. For some reason, the applicant doesn't feel today's standards should be applied. I'd like an explanation. What is the issue there?
I can explain that because this was a site plan that's already been developed. This isn't like a blank canvas where I'm painting a painting. I basically took a painting that's 3/4 already painted. with infrastructure built for the existing product that's currently out there. So I have no problem if I came to your township and had a vacant piece of property, I could abide by those laws, no problem. But when I take a half painted or basically a fully painted painting without putting my signature on it, it's hard to make those ordinances work. The infrastructure's in, the roadway's in, so it's kind of putting a box in a square today because it's already been approved and built.
I might be able to answer the question better for you. So, our first staff review letter that we did, the areas where we could not find compliances, the maximum permitted building length per today's standards based upon the new concept plan that was presented, that would not work. The architecture that was proposed for the newer townhouse units would never pass muster here. The garage design, all of the newer plans proposed by Mr. Farnari had the garage right in front, and we have discussed garages endlessly about how they need to look. This was nowhere close. Patio size, as I mentioned, we have minimum 100 square feet patio size requirement, minimum garage size. Amenities. So pretty much every aspect of what we would expect a newer development to have would be a stretch based on their plan. The River Park, the current 2004 approved River Park 2 condominium plans were a much higher step above the plans Mr. Fornari had presented to us. So we believe that was a lot nicer design than the newer concept that he was proposing. It might not be fully aligned with today's ordinance, but it definitely is architecturally compatible with the existing buildings, which are pretty good looking. But the newer concept that was proposed was nowhere close to what you would even consider.
Square footage. So it's basically footprint on the site versus, footprint is really what you're worried about, right?
I can provide you with a copy of my staff review letter. It's miles long.
Yeah. Well, no, I understand the rest, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is if the footprint fits, you could do anything, right? You could not saying you would, but you could redesign each one if the footprint still worked. You're talking about increasing the size of garages, right? By how much? A half a garage? That's probably the biggest change, right?
We have 3 plans here. We have the original River Park 2 condominiums that were approved.
Yeah.
Then we have the current ordinance standards. Then we have the plan that Mr. Fornari proposed. Mr. Fornari's plan is over here, River Park 2 is over here, current ordinance standards are here. This is definitely more workable than this.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask consultant is there something specific to the 7-acre parcel that prevents building condominiums that comply with the ordinance? Is there something specific about the parcel, something about its shape, about its wetlands? Is there some aspect of it that just would make it so that no applicant could possibly build a compliant structure on that parcel?
No.
No.
No. It's got the infrastructure, it's got the road, it's got the infrastructure, it's got the utilities.
And we had a condominium, a rebuild out in recent memory, my recent memory anyway, where the roads were already laid out in the condominium structure. And because of the way the roads were laid out many years ago, however long it was, 20 years ago, they really did have a problem with the site. In order to develop compliant buildings on it, they would have had to rip out all of the infrastructure, and that's not reasonable. And I know that in that case, we came up with buildings that could be put onto within the existing, the half-painted picture. It did require a trip to the zoning, the BZA to grant the variance in that case because there was something particular about that site that made it impossible to build compliant buildings, or at least very, very unreasonable to build compliant buildings. And I don't know why this should be treated differently.
That project had challenges because of the way the road was laid. They had to change the building configuration, and they went to ZBA for setback
Setbacks,
variance,
yeah, it was
which
setbacks, yeah.
for the rear yard setback, which was unavoidable because there was a utility easement. So
Yeah.
that was, yes, that was the case, but they did meet all the other aspects of our zoning ordinance as it stands, so.
Through the chair. So since this is an extension, how much would be allowed to change in terms of elevations or anything like that before it would become an amendment? And if that's the case, how does like the amendment deal with like the 20-year or 20-plus year gap? Is that something, like, does that throw a wrench into anything if it becomes an extension compared to, or an amendment compared to the extension?
The applicant has to comply with the existing site plan. I mean, if there are deviations of the site plan as far as the percentages of brick or the percentages of some of the siding materials, I mean, if there's changes, it's gotta comply with
Yeah.
our zoning ordinance.
And the amendment process for a site condominium would go back to the same step like a PRD. You have to have condominium site plan approval here, then it'll have to go back before the board. You'll have to start the process all over again. It won't merely be an extension. It'll become a site plan approval process again.
Is there a number of unit difference between the 2004 plan and what our zoning requires today? In other words, would he have to reduce the number of, could
You're
still-
asking if the density would be any different?
the-
I don't think, please don't quote me on this, I don't think our ordinance revised the density calculations for various zoning districts since then. So in the site condominium, whatever density was proposed at the time, I don't think that has changed over time. So Mr. Fornari will build exactly the number of units that was approved.
Does he have to go all 74? Could he do 70? Could he do?
He cannot deviate from the approved condominium plan in any way, shape, or form. If he reduces even one unit or changes architectural materials, he's starting the amendment process again.
Mr. Chair, quick question for the consultant. In your letter, you said compliance required, and then you listed 8 areas of compliance that is required. Is your intent there that this is including but not limited to these 8 items?
Yes.
Okay.
If you
This is-
would-
This isn't just the 8 things he has to, materials, for example. If it's called out in here that he needs a brick that was discontinued in 2029, that's a problem. He's coming back in front of us, right?
So until recently, Planning Commission approved red brick. We didn't go to the specifications until one applicant made the Planning Commission decide that you need to actually have the specs in. So if the original plans called for red brick on the buildings, Mr. Fornari will put in red brick, but he would definitely get administrative approval before he puts it in. He would not have to come back before you because the original drawings did not specify the brick specific lot number or the manufacturer of it. So yes, please, if you're going to do this, you can make it as including but not limited to. I was hoping to capture all the main things, but yes, I do not want anything to slip through the loopholes. You can say including but not limited to.
I have some comments.
Go for it.
I think my concerns are, first, if we're going to have to talk to an attorney about the layout of the HOA, whether it's going to be a standalone HOA or it's going to be merged back into the original condo, I think we probably ought to also ask the attorney whether or not we are able to grant an extension to a plan that's over 20 years old. That I know the rest of the building code, the rest of our ordinance code, it really says, once you start construction, they've got about a year, and if they stop construction, they can come back, as long as they haven't expired, they can come back for an extension from us, and a 1-year extension from us. And then, if it hasn't expired after that, and they're not done, they can come back for a second extension. And after that, our hands are tied. We can't grant another extension. So whether the condominium ordinance explicitly reiterates that or not, I know what the ordinance says for the rest of the building. So I would like the attorney to weigh in on, do we have the right as a do we have the, are we empowered to grant this extension? Because it is, understand it's a strange request. We don't get this request a lot, right? So, yeah,
As you're bringing up in construction that's for the infrastructure. That's all been completed. So if you have a slow vertical,
super. So I'm asking staff if you could please consult with the attorney and make sure that we're empowered to grant the extension. I want to know that we can. Positive confirmation from the township attorney that we can, so that we don't do something that ultimately gets the purchasers or the condominium or the developer into any kind of problems further down the road. I don't want anything else to stop the development once, if we go in this direction. I just want to make sure we're allowed to go in this direction. Normally, I would just trust the read of it, but since we're already going to the township attorney for these other HOA and condominium issues, I feel it would be appropriate to ask. Secondly, I'm concerned about the engineering. I know that our consultant from McKenna says that we have to defer to the township engineer regarding with compliance with stormwater detention requirements and potential reapproval from Wayne County if deemed necessary. In the previous item this evening, we just discussed what happens when we grant an approval without having Wayne County's input. We end up having trees moved or having multiple meetings or things that could have been nipped in the bud, so to speak, if we'd have just had the Wayne County approval up front. If we grant this extension tonight, we're doing exactly what we said we wouldn't do in item 1 this evening, which is go ahead with an approval without finding out at least a tentative letter from Wayne County. I would not be in favor of granting this extension without seeing Wayne County at least give us some kind of tentative write-off that says, hey, no, it could just be it's all in and no approval needed. It's great. We're happy with it. It could also be that Wayne County engineered a stormwater detention system 20 years ago, not knowing what was built in the next 15 years around it. They may have been in the intervening 15 years, they may have been measuring flow rates through stormwater systems. They may have been building new systems, knowing full well there was no condominiums on the site that they engineered 15 years ago. So it's not, I don't think it's unreasonable to let Wayne County consider that. Maybe they designed it for the future and maybe they kept that design in mind over the intervening 20 years. 20 years is a long time though. I would like them to say they are okay with granting this extension without further Wayne County review before we consider granting the extension without further review. Given what we just saw in the previous item, I really feel very strongly that we shouldn't move forward without hearing from Wayne County. I don't believe that this parcel is unbuildable by today's standards. I'm not convinced. I think that the applicant could come up with buildings that would look okay and would be compliant, but I can also see a reasonable argument for granting an extension if the concerns were addressed, because it would make the entire development cohesive. You wouldn't see an old section and a new section. You would see architecturally consistent buildings. Does that? You're looking at me like I'm crazy?
May I add to that?
Sir.
No, I agree with that. We're not, at this point, not denying, we just need all the information. You got to realize that 2004 was 21 years ago, and none of us were sitting here.
sure.
So I would even add that, maybe you were.
Video.
Site condominium, so.
The commissioner is correct.
I was 6 years old.
Okay, so.
Anyway, what I'd like to add, given that it's very new to all of us, is that part of the discovery of additional information that supports your request, that maybe you present to us what this project is and what the architecture is, so that, if we're going to make that decision to accept it, that
What it looks like, what it's going to look
that's
like. Okay.
really, that's
Really, what is the delta between what was acceptable in 2004 and what is acceptable today? Even in a PRD, we would want to see what would you have built here if it was a standard subdivision versus
So you want to see what's the difference between what was approved in 2004 versus if it's built today? I mean,
Yeah,
how
what-
different would it
which-
be?
How different would it be? That would be something I'd be very interested in considering. And of course, you know, the attorney's got to tell us that we even have the ability to grant the extension in the first place. That would address my concerns if we could do that.
I would agree with what he said.
I would agree. I would just also just like to say I do appreciate you guys coming here. I do think it's important. You know, we have I think it's later on the agenda today. We're talking more about housing. It's been a big issue in our community, so we absolutely are in need of it. I also think it's a good, like, I don't know, signal to show that like we are bouncing back after this 2008 recession where this, you know, literally died and we're bringing it back.
Yeah.
Closer to something.
Yeah, big time.
And I'm fully supportive of that. I would just, you know, agree with my colleagues that we got to be extra careful. And as you might have seen in the first agenda item, we don't want it to come back to bite us. So
Or bite the applicant, right?
absolutely, yeah, we
Yeah.
don't want you to spend thousands of dollars and then come back and have to, you know, reset. So absolutely in favor of the idea. Just think we need to flesh it out a little bit more.
And I like the idea too of staying with, I understand, believe me, I was one of the arguers on our garage fronts and things of that nature to make some of the changes, but if we can keep the continuity of I think is important, rather than seeing two completely separate developed areas as well. So, anybody else?
Quick question for the applicant, Mr. Chair. I'd like to know if the extension were to be granted, how quickly would the applicant be moving forward and what would be a time frame for completion of the project?
Probably start this coming spring.
Yeah.
It'd probably take, 12 months.
It's not bad. Staff would, yeah, we probably wouldn't be able, since this would be an extension, we wouldn't be able to add anything to it like, I don't want to call them penalties, but consequences for failure to complete, since that's what happened to the first development. Mr. Chairman, was the applicant the original developer?
No.
No.
Okay, coming in afterwards?
Yes.
Okay.
He
all right.
purchased it in 2011.
Yeah, I've been paying property taxes on 74 parcels, so I'd like to get something moving. It's a long time now.
We appreciated that, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anyone else with comments?
I really think if he gets this information and brings it back to us, that it will delay him starting if we renew it to start in spring. It's not like you're gonna start before next year.
Whatever you guys like me to get, it sounds like, should my attorney get with your attorney? Is this that type of thing to verify everything? I just,
What we'll do is we'll reach out to our township attorney and verify that the course of action about making the decision's correct.
sure.
But the second item was the Wayne County letter. I think if you reach out to the permit office and get something indicating whether or not you need a permit for the activities would be sufficient. So even an email.
That's fine. It's just like the development's, it's developed. That's what I thought it was just coming to get building permits tonight, not to go through this whole process, but sure. It's developed.
So we'll proceed that way if that's what the planning commission.
But you would have to reapply for a building permit.
That's
anyway.
correct.
They're all old,
Yeah,
so they
it's-
may come after you for maybe different,
No, not really. It's already been developed. The site plan's been developed in accordance, forever. I've been paying property taxes on 74 units. I was just reapplying for building permits up the code today. So I know you say the site plan, I'm very familiar, site plan is only good for a year. That's when it's not developed. We have this whole plan developed already. You see when construction stops, not vertical construction, the land development. So this has already been completed.
Well, site plan contains not just your infrastructure, but also the the construction of the buildings as well, their appearances, that's something that we have control over, so
So if you had a residential subdivision that just had slow sales for 20 years, you can have them changed when they pull the permit after been paying tax? It doesn't make sense.
Well, there is a difference between ongoing construction where it is slowly built over a period of 10, 12 years versus something that just stopped dead in like 2008 and has had nothing done to it. I think that's where they are struggling with it. It's not like, yes, market slows down. Sometimes you build as you sell, but this had just come to a halt.
Subdivision on speculation, I paid property taxes on 60 lots every year, and when I wanted to build, I'd build. I did everything in the site plan. What would stop me 20 years from now from building on my lots? It's developed, that's what I'm saying. I'm paying property taxes, it's not like the roads, I put all the roads in, paying my property taxes, and I just want to develop my lots today. You're saying 20 years from now, something would change?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that if it were a residential lot, and this is, tangential to this discussion, this isn't what we're talking about tonight, but I would suggest that if, it was a residential lot that had been undeveloped for 20 years, we would not allow the new house to be built to the standards of 20 years ago. It would have to
Right.
meet the standards of today. And since
and all
we
codes that would be.
absolutely, it would be a new construction, it would follow new construction standards. The request that's before us tonight is an extension of a plan that was approved over 20 years ago.
Right.
And we have some concerns because it isn't something that we see. I've never seen it before. And I want to just make very certain that that the applicant is protected, that the future purchasers are protected in the township, and the neighbors are protected in
Protected
this.
as well.
And I think one more meeting, one contact with Wayne County, a quick touch back with the township attorney and with engineering, and we should be able to come into a decision as to whether or not it's acceptable or reasonable to grant the extension. Because I don't think that it's on the surface, it's not a bad idea to consider. There's a few little details we want to take care of first.
Because we would like this
Yes,
to be
we would like it to
completed.
be completed, absolutely.
Absolutely.
20 years is a long time.
Tell me. Okay, anybody from the public? Anybody from the public? Okay, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to postpone a decision on the request in case 25-020 River Park 2 condos, which was a site plan extension approval, until such time as the applicant is able to present a letter from Wayne County with their detention requirements, if any, and for staff to consult with the township attorney regarding the township's concerns around approval of an extension to the site plan approval and any issues that may arise with the parcel split and possible recombination of the HOA. If I missed any of staff's concerns that they wanted to talk about with the attorney, I'd certainly be willing to discuss.
I'm sorry, you did mention Wayne County to get,
I think I did. I think I did mention Wayne County. We want to have a letter from Wayne County
right.
And we're
discussing their requirements.
still looking for a comparison of,
And we would like, in the next meeting, to consider a comparison of the 2004 architecture versus what would be required today.
I have it.
Thank you very much. I think that's my motion. I humbly request your support in that motion.
support.
Okay, we have a motion and support concerning to postpone. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Sherry Budd. Yes. Bernie Grant. Yes. Jackson Paul.
Yes.
Jeff Jar.
Yes?
Brian Cullen.
Yes. So we're Go ahead and postpone. We're not denying anything.
Making progress. Sorry.
Going forward. And we would very much like to work with you to make sure that we can complete this process.
Then you'll just email me next steps then. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Okay, item number 3. Mission Point. Dock and stair site plan approval. A request by applicant CR Lakeside, Chris Cole, on behalf of owner Mission Point on the Lake Subdivision Association to install a dock and stairs. The site is located at 13085 Ventura Drive. First up, presentation from staff, Director Akers.
Thank you very much. So the Mission Point subdivision has an existing non-commercial use multi-docking facility on a common use lot that is owned by the homeowners association. The address of the lot's 13085 Ventura Drive, and the facility currently has a stairway and a dock down to the water. Stairway down to the water and a dock, excuse me. CR Lakeside has submitted plans to remove the existing docks and stairs and construct 2 docks, a boardwalk, and a stairway on the township-owned Belleville Lake property. The property is zoned R1B, but the township-owned Belleville Lake property is zoned under the Belleville Lake Shoreline District, BLB, which covers non-single-family residential uses. This is because the parcel is a common use lot for the subdivision, and in my staff review is a description of what the BLB district is. Proposed use is considered a non-commercial use multi-docking facility that's defined in the zoning code and in the staff report. The review process for the proposed improvements will require the planning commission approval in accordance with the requirements of the Belleville Shoreline section of the zoning code. And in the staff report, we've reviewed those required standards in the zoning ordinance. The first section we looked at are the application requirements that are required for the site plan. And so staff's comments are based on the review of the plans. They appear to meet the submitted standards despite being hand-drawn. These plans are similar to what we accept for administrative reviews, and understand that Eagle does accept these as well for their permitting procedures. Although staff is familiar with the site, we have asked that the applicant provide some photos of the current conditions of the site for reference, and I believe they've brought them here this evening. The next standard that we look at when reviewing these cases, which are not special approval, are the approval criteria, which are located in the township zoning code for these type of uses. And those are listed in the staff review. Individually, the applicant has to demonstrate compliance with the section of the code. So we've provided review comments below, and it appears to meet the standards. One of the next approval standards that the structure shall not unreasonably interfere with the adjacent property owners or public uses and enjoyment of the waters of Belleville Lake, and that the facilities need to be designed to protect neighboring property owners from negative off-site impacts. Staff's comment is that the proposed location of the docks are of a distance to neighboring properties that we do not anticipate any issues interfering with their use of the lake. Both properties, I believe, are set back over 30 feet, or the docks, excuse me, are set back over 30 feet from either side. The next standard is that the structure will not create a risk to the health, safety, and welfare of the persons who use Belleville Lake for recreational purposes, and will not interfere with safe navigation of the lake. Based on our review, our comment is that they will not create a risk to health, safety, or welfare, and do not stick out far enough to interfere with safe navigation of the lake. The next approval standard is that the structure will be construction materials which will not impair water quality, flow, or water levels. The structure is proposed to be constructed of steel poles that will be drove into the ground and then constructed of treated lumber. As this is a common method for docking, it's not anticipated that there will be any issues with water quality, flow, or water levels. The next approval standard is the extent feasible, the structures have to protect and enhance the scenic, recreational, environmental quality of Belleville Lake. The location of the facilities shall be such that they will not create a negative visual impact for the public. Staff's comment is that the location of facilities are in an existing park, and improvements are replacing older docks and stairs. It's anticipated this will improve safety and have a limited impact on scenic, recreational, environmental quality. Next standard is that marinas and non-commercial multi-docking facilities shall be separated from one another to avoid overcrowding and excess boat traffic on the lake. Staff's comment is this facility is existing, and due to the small amount of provided dock space, it's anticipated to have little impact on boat traffic. The docks at Bay Shore are on the opposite shore of the lake, but aside from that, the site is at a significant distance from any other marina or non-commercial multi-docking facilities on the lake. So we're not anticipating that to be a concern. The next standard is consideration shall be given to maintaining consistency with upland zoning and use. And our comment is that the upland zoning and use is a common use lot for the subdivision with a playground and a gazebo on it. The use is existing and consistent with the park use, providing recreational access towards the lake for the homeowners association. Uses approved shall be consistent with the primary goal of permitting reasonable use by lake residents and landowners, and staff's comment is the dock and stair project is consistent with the goal of providing that reasonable use. So Belleville Lake zoning requirements has specific development standards that we take a look at whenever we look at siting new docks within the township. So what I've done in my staff report is I've highlighted all of the applicable standards that we have in our code. So some of the comments that we make, so we look at setbacks, so docks are required to be at least 10 feet from each of the side lot lines of the abutting upland lot as extended into the water. And seeing as the side setbacks are 60 feet, 232 feet, the standard has been met. There are standards with boardwalks where they can extend further, but however, the proposed boardwalk, does maintain the same setbacks as the docks, so we highlighted that standard was met as well. There is a standard for dock length. We don't allow a dock to extend more than 40 feet into Belleville Lake, and their proposal has a total dock length of 26 feet, which indicates that that standard has been met. And then we also have standards for the amount of available frontage that docks and other structures are able to take up as well. So based on our calculations of the lot frontage and the percentage that is the docks and boardwalk are taking up, the dock and boardwalk only extend across 5.8% of the available frontage, so it definitely meets the 60% requirement that we have in the ordinance. For stairs, we do have specific requirements for stairs that they minimize the visual and physical impacts on frontage. They're limited to no more than one per lakefront lot, which there is only one stairway proposed, so that standard is met. And then docks, stairways, and landings are required also to be entirely above the normal high water mark of the Belleville Lake, in which case, according to the plans, this stairway also meets that requirement as well. We do have specific requirements that apply to non-commercial multi-docking facilities in our development standards. They're listed in the staff report. I'll go through just a handful of them. So one of them are related to that we prohibit dry docks or dry land storage of watercraft, which there's none proposed. There's standards for if there's fueling stations, which in this instance there are none proposed. They're required to comply with Eagle standards, which they will have to obtain an Eagle permit. They'll have to submit application, but they can't do that until they get a letter for an approval from the township. So they will be required to address that. That they don't permit hoists or similar structures, and again, there's none proposed. One of the standards is that all uses shall be located as to protect the neighboring property owners from off-site impacts of the use and protect navigation. As the site's already existing, we're not anticipating any negative issues from that. And then the last one is stated that when reviewing a proposed new or changes to an existing marina or non-commercial multi-docking facility, the township has to consider factors including the location of the facility on the lake, visibility, and potential impacts on aesthetic and recreational quality, and as well as separation from other marinas. So our last comment was that the location of the facility is existing. We don't anticipate any negative impacts on the aesthetic or recreational quality of the lake. It's not far enough out to impact navigation. It's common to see docks made of treated lumber, and new improvements will be constructed to current safety standards. There are docks at Bay Shore across the lake from the park, and they are a multi-family docking facility, but due to the width of the lake and the length of the docks, we're not traffic. And also due to the small number of boats that can be docked at the proposed Mission Point HOA docks as well. So based on our review of the application, we're recommending the township grant approval of the application by CR Lakeside for the construction of stairs, boardwalk, and 2 docks at 13085 Ventura, also known as Mission Point Subdivision Common Use Lot, subject to the findings and conclusions in our staff report, and subject to the condition that we provide photos of the current condition of the site. That concludes my summary, and I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Moving ahead, do we have the applicant? Would you please approach the podium and tell us what you want and introduce yourself as well, please?
Cool, CNR Lakeside. This is,
Anne Marie Stevens with Mission Point HOA, the president of 135 houses in Mission Point.
and she's got, current photos.
May I pass them up?
Smarter, can you put them on the overhead there, Ron, so that they can be projected?
Get them on the.
I have to apologize, my first 5 came out as color and then,
No, no worries.
a black and
Thank you.
white.
That's fine.
It's completely color.
Yes, no worries.
We'll be all set. One second.
That's what I was thinking, but I also wonder if it's like seasonal. Oh, maybe. Or if not, when we took it down.
There you go.
Thank you. So if we're looking at what our stairs and docks look like right now.
To the microphone, please.
Thank you. What you're looking at right now is the present condition of our dock and stairs. We're hoping to change this on the next page. This is what it used to look like. This is a picture from May 2018, so we've had docks and stairs. It's just over the 20 years that the docks and stairs have been there. They needed to be replaced, so due to safety standards. If you look, the one side of the stairs, we're gonna have about 60 feet, same thing that was there before it hits the neighbor's property. And then on the other side, we're gonna have about 232 feet before it hits the other side of the property. So we're just wanting to replace what used to be there, is what we're asking, pretty much.
What happened to it?
They've just been in there for 20 years, and the 20 years of being in and out, they were temporary docks, so they kept, we had Diversified come and take them out, throw them up on the hill, take them, put them back in, throw them up. And over the 20 years, the dock just became very unstable, and we were ratchet strapping it to keep it together. And then the stairs, kind of deteriorated too, because it was all wood. We'd replace that, but again, we were holding it with ratchet straps together, so we're just, took it out because we needed a safety, and we're hoping to replace it.
Through the chair. Would the new one be removable as well?
I'm sorry?
Would the new one be removable as well?
No, we're asking the new ones to be permanent, so we won't have that expense, and it'll, it'll save us the wear and tear on the docks. Thank you.
To the chair. Is the style going to be similar to what you had with the dock like that, or is it laid out different than what was originally there?
It's pretty identical to what it, yeah, it's excellent.
What
It-
was there?
Yep, it is exactly what it is. Same size, same height, same difference between the little fork, everything, the little boardwalk in the front. Everything's gonna be the same, except for I think we're using Trex instead,
Yep, and structural steel.
and yeah, structural.
Thank you.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, this is the site plan, right? This hand-drawn deal? Okay. Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant. Mr.
for it.
Mr. Cole, how many pilings are you going to be driving in? I know you have two at the head of each pier, but how many do you have in the back, and how many are supporting the boardwalk?
So, two at the end of every dock.
Yep.
And then the boardwalk will have 6. So you're gonna have a total of 10 pilings total. And then every staircase landing that's not in the water will have 4.
Oh, you're going to do the stairs with, Mr. Chairman, sorry, through the chair. The stairs will be steel piling as well?
Yes, they hold up a lot better on the banks because you can penetrate down deeper into the ground.
I have one other question for the HOA president. I see that the park has got, in one of the pictures, it looks like it's got a rope fence. Are you planning on having a gate on the stairs going down, or a rope or anything like that? It's
No.
not required, I'm
Yeah.
just asking if you've thought about it.
It's just gonna be an open to the stairs.
Okay, I don't think it's required, I'm pretty sure it's not required.
If it's required, we'll consider something.
Safety, you know.
As of now, no.
Was it just taken out for the season?
Yeah, so we take them out and put it back in and take it out, put it back in. Actually,
it's-
it was not put in this year because
Okay.
it was in such disarray. We chose not to because of health reasons or safety reasons.
The, Mr. Commissioner Grant pointed out they had some benches on the old version. Are you going to be doing any seating on the new one? It doesn't show up on the site plan.
I don't think we've discussed that. I don't think that's in the plans, no. Yeah, no, I don't think
Super.
we're gonna have benches.
You're just trying to check to make sure your hand-drawn is representative of what you're really building.
We haven't discussed benches, there are no plans.
And there are no steps going down into the water like there used to be on the old one, right? Perfect.
But yeah, I don't know. Is that where we have to make those plans now? Shoot. I don't know how else we'd get in the water.
I would think so. I think the hand-drawn plan, if you're building what's on the hand-drawn plan, it's gonna look real nice. This is what?
Anything that, if you guys did new stairs, you'd want those to be removable. Otherwise, they're gonna get tore up by
Okay.
like ice sheet movement.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be fixed structure at that point anyways.
Okay.
But I would think you'd want them on the drawing now, rather than maybe having to come back again and asking to add them, right?
If they're removable, there's no
There's
need
no
for,
issue.
yeah, for a permit.
And as the applicant's engineer, contractor, well, pointed out, you don't want those in there permanently anyway. The ice will take the whole thing out, even if you make it out of steel. I like the docks. I think they look very nice. I think it'll be a good addition to the Mission Point property to have docks that aren't so shaky there anymore. They're non-commercial, which means the HOA will not be renting out slips. Is that correct, Director Akers? It's just for general use, not for revenue purposes.
It's in our HOA bylaws that they're day docks and it prohibits overnight use.
Marvelous. I think they looks like a great plan.
Looks good.
Any further discussion? Then do we have anybody from the public to make comment? Okay. Commissioners, what is your desire on this issue?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion. Make a motion to grant the applicant, Chris Cole of CR Lakeside, on behalf of the owner, Mission Point on the Lake Subdivision Association, to install a dock and stairs located at 13085 Ventura Drive, subject to the following letter of Van Buren Township, letter dated November 7th, 2025.
Support. We have a motion and support. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Jackson Paul,
Yes.
Bernie Grant,
Yes.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Cullen.
Yes. You have your steps and docks.
It's going to look nice.
You're welcome. Okay, as we move forward, item number 4. MSHDA discussion number 1. Discussion on proposed drafts for the MRD district and MROD district overlay district. Presentation from staff. I assume you're, okay.
I'm up. Commissioners, we have been working for a while on this Michigan State Housing Development Agency's Housing Readiness Grant Program. A quick refresher, the Housing Readiness Grant Program was a grant given by the state of Michigan to municipalities to investigate the provision of affordable, attainable housing and a variety of housing types. The state has determined that there is a massive housing shortage, especially those for younger families and people coming in, and those for seniors who want to age in place. One of the requirements of this MISHTA grant was that not only do you do a study and you identify the needs, what the community has, you have also got to have zoning ordinance actionable items. The state requires that of your grant. The actionable items basically involve creation of districts and regulations that actually will help you implement. So it's just not going to be a policy or an idea out there in the air. You actually have concrete steps in order to be able to execute it. An outcome of all the studies that we did finally results in us presenting for the Planning Commission to consider 2 additions to our zoning ordinance. The first one is the MRD, which is the Mixed Residential District, and the second one is an overlay district called MROD. Both of these districts are different from each other significantly. If you recollect, we previously presented to you concept plans for 3 sites, and the concept drawings that we developed, we just picked those sites because they were there in our RRC development and in the previous housing studies we had done. So the concept plans were just to give us an idea as to how these districts would actually be applicable. The first one being the Mixed Residential District. Now, the Mixed Residential District is a purely residential district only. It is intended to provide a mix of various housing types. Our intent also was that adoption of this district should not require an amendment to the master plan again, which is its whole long new process. So under the intent section, we clearly note that the MRD district is best aligned with the current future land use categories of low density single family B, medium density single family A, medium density single family B, and the multiple family residential districts. If you look at your packet, we did provide you with a map that actually shows you all those districts. So it shows you, last time I came before you, the Planning Commission said, show us a map where you think this district would be applicable. We are showing you all of the districts that it is aligned with. That said, not every parcel that is shown on this map will qualify for the MRD, because based on the Planning Commission's guidelines, we put in certain minimum development requirements. And those are included as footnote E in the district details. The minimum parcel size for a mixed residential development shall be 10 acres, and that shall be exclusive of any easements or right-of-ways. It is our understanding also from talking to other developers that 10 acres is the minimum that makes it financially feasible to even put together a development. The Planning Commission had a concern, is a developer going to be using this as a backdoor to put in greater intensity of development on a parcel than it would otherwise be permitted? For instance, this district is aligned with single-family residential districts in a master plan, but the permitted uses would include apartment houses 3 to 10 units. It includes single-family detached ranch-style dwellings only. There was based on the Planning Commission's discussion, a determination that there is a lack of ranch-style homes, especially for aging population who don't want the two-story up and down colonial climbing or the Cape Cod-style homes. This does allow for single-family attached, which is 3 to 10 unit townhomes that are attached together. It would allow for two-family dwellings. And only as a special land use would it permit apartments that have more than 10 units or multiple family high-rise dwelling that have more than 10 units. Because the uses that are being permitted in the MRD are of more greater intensity than the master plan districts medium density A and B, which are basically single family districts. Now we are saying we are going to allow multiple family. We wanted to put in certain guardrails so that a developer doesn't say, hey, I am aligned with medium density single family A, I'm going to take in the parcel and build a whole bunch of apartments. So we put in a caveat in here. The minimum parcel size has to be 10 acres. Any development under this MRD shall include no less than 3 different housing types. You cannot put in all apartments. You need to have detached ranch style. You would need to have townhomes, and then you can have apartments. You cannot just go all apartments. You need to mix and match at least 3 different types. You can have single family ranch, duplexes, and apartments. Or you can have 2-family townhomes and apartments. You can have just townhomes, ranch, and 2-family. You have to provide a mix because that is what makes these different housing types suitable across multi-generations.
Quantities.
There is based, so your question is what is the density that we would allow?
Well, not just that. Developer comes in and says, okay, I have to put in 3 types. I put in 1 ranch style, 1 townhome, and the rest is all apartments. How are we going to limit the quantity of apartments that are put onto that site?
Very good point. So the percentage limitation, no more than 30% of it shall be apartments or no more than, okay. Very good point. I shall add it in. Limit number of by percentage of parcel that can be developed. Okay.
How would you determine that ratio or that percentage?
So what we would do is we would do a test. Like we would take a parcel, we would say like, let us ideally take a 10-acre parcel, and then we would calculate what would its density be under the medium density single family in the master plan. How many units would we allow? Now, if you're allowing for more intensity of uses, in order to balance it out, how much of it would have to be ranch-style dwellings? How much of it would have to be? So we will have to find a happy medium between it. So it doesn't look like we are saying master plan medium density single family A parcels are now going to be covered with 60% apartments and just a few ranch units thrown in here and there together. So we will have to find that balance and bring it back before you. What we are proposing before you is new concepts. This MROD and this MRD are new concepts of development that basically Van Buren is like on the cutting edge of planning over here, what we are trying to do.
Just a question, I don't even know the answer. I'm just, can't remember. Is there any kind of economic impact of what that percentage balance is? Like a developer going in, he's going to count units and money, right? Is that going to restrict in any way? I don't know.
So you're saying at what point of time will a developer say that financially it is not worth developing if I can't get so many multiple family units
Right.
in there?
Right.
So we are going to try and find that balance. When I bring it back before you, but we are going to put a limit on it so that it, like Commissioner Cullen said, I don't want this to become, because ranch-style single family is what we are looking at, seniors who don't want apartment-style living, who don't want 2-story living, but they want to have their little ranch-style house. We want to make that not for just 2 seniors. We want to have portions of the development that are all cohesively work together. The development still has to work. Like for instance, if you look at, I keep getting Country Walk and Cobblestone Creek mixed up, so I apologize if these 2 names keep getting mixed up. Cobblestone Creek, west side, south side of Huron River Drive. If you see, it has got multiple family units in there, then you have single family units. So it's got a mix of both, but the development as a whole is cohesive. So we want to take a look at other requirements. For instance, if you look at our PRD ordinance has limits on how many of them can be attached and stuff. We need to put in something like that over here. We'll have to come up with that medium. We also added a requirement stating that detached single-family residential buildings shall be ranch style only with a minimum floor area of 1,000 square feet. We want to avoid these colonials. We have enough developments with these. We have enough PRDs that provide for those kind of dwelling. We don't have too many of them. I think the only development that actually had ranch style units that I can recollect in recent memory would be Brookside, the senior living where they had attached. Those were the only ranch style units. Otherwise, everything is two-story. We haven't seen ranch style. So we made sure that we have a provision for ranch in here. Green belts shall be provided along all property lines in conformance with our current ordinance standards, which is very robust. The developments need to include active and passive amenities for use of residents of all age groups. You might have children, so you might need a playground for that. That doesn't mean you don't provide walking pathways for seniors or, something for more passive recreational. Incorporation of walking trails is encouraged. We did not put required because we don't know if there are wetlands or natural areas where they wouldn't be allowed to touch it. So we wanted to encourage it as part of it. Wooded areas of parcels must be maintained to the extent feasible. Proposed site design must take existing natural features into consideration while developing site design. So it cannot be a design which is like, this is what we are going to build and we are basically going to clear cut and just provide the required replacement trees. We want them to take into account existing stands of trees and try to come up with a more thoughtful design. So the exterior building type materials for all dwellings will have to comply with what is currently in our ordinance. Our architectural standards are high there. But we have heard enough from developers that the cost of housing gets driven up when you're absolutely rigid on that brick requirement. Our ordinance, the way it is written, does not take into account newer building types. Some of the newer composite materials that have come, they look really, really good. They're very durable for 50 years too. They're not the vinyl siding. We would still have the prohibitions for those kind of aluminum siding, vinyl siding, those kind. But we want to allow an opening for different type of architectural styles, which do not necessarily mean all brick or stone. So we added in a flexibility here saying Planning Commission shall have the discretion to modify any and all proposed building materials upon demonstration by the applicant that the materials proposed reflect high quality architectural, are durable new materials, or represent a unique architectural style. So if you look, I'll just give it for example because I'm familiar with, if you look at some of the houses in Cherry Hill Village, I don't know if you have visited those.
I haven't driven through, but I've driven by
some
many
some of
times.
them have like no brick, no stone, but they are, some of the homes are the cutest looking homes because they have full wraparound porches. They have that colonial style architecture, like with like nice pillars. You have a nice wraparound porch where you can have a swing. You have a nice door. You have a fan light on top. It goes back to historic architectural elements. They have like cornices, decorative. So while not being brick or stone, the building architecture is so attractive because it reflects a bygone era and a bygone time period. We want the Planning Commission to have the discretion to be able to say, okay, this means, instead of boxing you into a corner where you say, we like the architecture you're proposing, but the ordinance ties our hands. And there is no way they can go for a variance in that because a variance cannot be granted. It's not a practical difficulty at that point. So Planning Commission will have the discretion. Then garage doors on all single-family attached, detached, and two-family dwellings shall be subject to the standards. Those are the new standards that you adopted. You work so hard on it, so those standards will be applicable. Accessory buildings and uses must be located on the same lot as the main use and shall not involve any business, professional, trade, or occupation. This is typically a caveat we have in all single-family residential districts. So the footnotes over here are intended to cover the basis to ensure that we have newer multi-generational housing which appeals to all types, young families, middle families, empty nesters, and seniors. It should provide something for everybody. It provides for architectural flexibility for the Planning Commission to make the determination. It still requires compliance with our Greenbelt landscaping standards, with our garage standards, which we took so much effort to put together something nice in there. And it also allows for a mix of types. This was to avoid, as last time Commissioner Budd had said, we don't want somebody to come up with this proposal on a 2-acre parcel, in which case this entire map that we are showing will be used by developers to cover it with little itty-bitty developments. We want somebody to look at this as an option for providing a variety of housing types, take some of these smaller parcels, consolidate them, and come up with one cohesive development that provides for this intergenerational housing. So that is our goal with this draft. I look forward to your comments, your feedback, any edits. The first edit I already have is limiting the percentage of the higher density housing types to ensure that there is enough mix and variety.
Through the chair, are we sure that 10 acres is big enough to handle all of that? That seems like a small parcel to put in all those things.
Recently, there was a developer in for a meeting, and so a housing developer. So in conversations that they said for it to be financially viable to put any development in, we need a 10-acre parcel. That said, 10 acres with 3 different housing types,
It kind of look like thrown together, I think.
okay.
I don't know. I think
Maybe
10
explore and check with more places on what would be. So would we find out what is the minimum number of multiple family units that would be viable for somebody to build? How much land would that take versus what would be single family, and put it together and come up with a feasible minimum land area, possibly?
Right, yeah, especially if they're going to have standalone houses.
That takes up yard space.
Yeah.
And we do have minimum lot size requirement for single-family homes. Single-family detached ranch would require 6,300 square foot lot size.
Right.
Minimum, so there is some yard at least. So,
It might, but it just seems, and then I do not like the idea of shared parking. Does that mean, I know we saw the one development where they were sharing a driveway for homes. Is that what you're talking about, where it says shared parking should be provided whenever possible?
which one are we looking at?
She's looking in the MRAD.
I'm actually looking in the,
Emerald?
yeah.
I'll come to the Emerald immediately. I'm in MRD, I'm still stuck in the first
Oh, okay.
district.
All right.
Sorry.
All right,
I
I'll
was like,
back
did
up.
I put something in? I didn't realize. Any comments for me on the MRD? I will look at the 10 acres. I will look at the percentage to make sure we are not coming up with the minimum size, which is not practical.
Right.
Or representing on the materials, I like that incorporation of walking trails is encouraged, but whenever I see is encouraged, I want to see planning commission has the discretion to do something, because that's how you encourage things, right? Oh, your bricks, I'm not convinced your architecture is really that high quality, but maybe if there were some walking trails, I might find it in my heart to say that it was higher quality. That might enhance the quality of the existing architecture. So I do like that there's some planning commission discretion. I think your verbiage on the exterior building materials for all dwelling types, that bit about or represent a unique architectural style, I would encourage you to say or represent a unique high-quality architectural style, because, you got to admit, post-war housing built in 1946 was definitely a unique architectural style, but it's nothing I want to see built.
So when we say high quality,
Shingles?
would high quality be a subjective term? Who decides what
Can be a
is high quality?
it could be a
Probably helpful, right?
I mean, that was, that's all I'm saying. Just want to
Want
make sure
it
it's high
to be
quality.
subjective so that the planning commission can make the
Well, it
determination.
already is subjective, the way you've got it footnote 8 written. It's, the planning commission has the discretion to modify any and all proposed building materials upon demonstration by the applicant that the materials proposed reflect high-quality architecture, are durable new materials, or represent a unique architectural style. That or says it doesn't have to be high-quality architecture and it doesn't have to be durable new material, as long as that's a unique architectural style.
Understood.
So my goodness, it looks like a dome made out of polystyrene. Well, that's definitely unique.
That's not the intent.
that's
I will add it in.
High quality.
Yes, thank you.
Don't need one of those 3D printed worm houses, yeah.
Like, oops, that's not what we meant. Okay.
Admit a 3D printed concrete house would be unique. I have
Those,
seen those and, yeah, I don't, and it would be unique. I don't know, it necessarily
True
looked
that.
all that good, so that's why I was suggesting in that language, just,
Yes,
reiterate, it's not just unique. It's gotta look good.
Okay.
A question, are townhomes considered multi-floor?
Multifamily, they're considered
No,
single.
no, multi-floor. In other words,
Yes,
They are
so when you
usually.
say a townhome, you're looking at least 2 stories.
yes, yes. So
Okay.
when you look at townhomes, it would say single family attached. The maximum permitted building height would be 2.5 stories and 35 feet, which would allow you to have a loft also, a half-story loft. Which also the planning commission discussed extensively just a couple of years ago about the
Oh, yeah.
usable space.
That seemed reasonable. I'm a little concerned about the detached, single-family residential dwellings shall only be ranch style. I mean, I want to encourage like ranch-style houses, because it's tough when you have all the housing is built up for a senior to have enough space to buy a nice house, but not have to go upstairs. But, like I grew up in Westland, and they've got all of those subdivision houses where they built all of those houses, miles and miles of houses. There were 2 models, exactly 2, a ranch and then a ranch with a colonial thing on it. And some people like the ranch, and some people like the ranch style with the upstairs bedrooms. And I thought it was not bad having some of the houses be ranch and some of them have an upstairs for extended family. So
would
maybe just limiting it to just ranch, maybe there ought to be a clause in there with a percentage or something that makes
So
it.
detached single-family residential dwellings shall include at least 30% ranch-style units or something like that you're
Something like
looking at?
that, yeah, something like that. I mean, as long as we've got some, because I think we want to encourage the ranch-style houses, because for whatever reason, they aren't as economically lucrative, I guess, to a developer, but they are very valuable to the people who want to buy them, I guess. I'm not sure how that works, but you know what I'm saying? A ranch is nice, especially if you have problems going upstairs. My grandparents would have really liked a ranch,
It's increasingly becoming a very popular housing style, especially as people get older. I mean, it's not like you have elevators in the house, right? Your knees take a beating going up and down the steps. So ranch styles are more and more popular. So yes, instead of saying only ranch style, I can put in that you must have at least some
maybe just
percentage of.
yeah, some percentage should be ranch style. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see 2 blocks of all double stories and then you stick
one
with
little
one,
ranch.
and then
Little
one little
ranch.
ranch, yeah. That-
That's no good either. So
And then a
maybe,
stack of apartments.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe some percentage there too would be good, but with some requirement for the ranch dwellings.
I do have a question, and I don't know if this is possible or not through zoning, but I mean, if the concern is about single-family homes and providing, providing space for somebody who's aging and maybe wants to live in a single story, can we, through zoning, require them to put a bedroom on like if they have a 2-story home, requiring a bedroom and bathroom facilities on the main floor?
No.
I've never seen it, but.
Because that would be basically that would be a Cape Cod, right? Having a bedroom on the main floor. So that would basically be telling a developer what he can build in terms of floor plans, and that entirely is their marketability. The style of home is one thing, but dictating the floor plan is a whole another thing. We can't do that. But I think it's a reasonable compromise to say at least make a certain percentage of all the single-family detached homes ranch style. So for those who want that style units, there's something available.
The reason I bring it up is because we have minimum floor space requirements for houses, right? A house has to have a certain amount of size.
Yeah.
And if you are aging in place and the stairs are no longer, really a day-to-day option, that really cuts down the amount of usable space in the house to, if it was a, boxy it cuts the amount of usable space in half. And if the two-story house was already at what we said was the smallest possible house that we would want a resident of Van Buren Township to be able to live in, the minute they can't go up the stairs anymore, that's half, you know? And so for an aging in place, that's why the ranch is important. It's because, you know, we don't want to have the houses all be going up in the air, because then they only have half the usable space on the first floor for someone who can't access the
We
second
did
floor.
put a limit in saying that the minimum size of a ranch has to be 1,000 square feet. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
reasonable.
And the other problem that comes with that on a two-story is that these lots, they squeeze them in on these lots where setbacks, you don't have any room to put an addition on a lot of times to address that person getting older to have an additional space.
Look at some of these minimum floor area per unit, you will see that the unit sizes are really small, and that is intentionally small because the goal of this housing readiness grant is to make it affordable. More the square footage, more the price,
Right.
more out of reach it is. These are smaller units, but they will help people with home ownership or get into a home.
And that's exactly why I
That's
think we ought to have a mix of ranch in there too. So
Exactly.
that way we don't end up making affordable homes of which only half the space is usable. There should be some that are ranch. Yeah, I dig it. We're on the same page, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other corrections in this one before I go over the Emerald?
And I know in the multifamily high-rise, I'm sure they, I mean, we can't tell them they gotta put an elevator in, I'm sure.
Yeah, we got.
'Cause I know that would make the cost probably unbearable. They wouldn't want to do that, but.
And the reason we put the multifamily high-rise as a special land use is, if you look at the regulations we have proposed, the building height is 65 feet or 5 stories. This is less than what we permit under our current zoning ordinance. That is why we specifically included a lower height here. We put it under special land use so that the planning commission, that's where you'll decide, does this use fit into the area? It might fit into some of the areas you see in the map, a taller building, and in other areas, you're like, anything above 2 stories is a no-go. So that is why it's a special land use. Okay, I will jump to the Emerald district. The Emerald is a very, very unique district. This is a new concept. It is called floating overlays. In fact, when I was drafting it, it was so. We have currently an overlay district called B-Rod, Belleville Road Overlay District. If you look at the zoning map, the B-Rod boundaries are clearly defined. It shows you which parcel the B-Rod is on. The Emerald will not be seen on your zoning map. It will not be an overlay that is fixed. It is called as a floating overlay. This is a new concept in planning. And I actually had to sit with John Jackson and talk this and, pull up all information and read up about. It basically is a district that can be applied in wherever relevant area where it suits. So it doesn't have a fixed destination. You only define the underlying districts where this can be laid. And so if you look at the district where this is permitted, the Emerald will be permitted as an overlay only in the C local business, the C1 general business, and the C2 highway business district. So basically, a developer who owns parcels in either one of these 3 C districts can request a rezoning to the Emerald overlay. Now, what is the benefit for the developer? For the developer, the C districts are strictly commercial districts. You cannot do anything else besides that. But the Emerald offers you a whole variety of uses. It's like a mixed-use district. The permitted uses in the Emerald would be apartment houses, multiple family, single family attached, traditional mixed-use buildings with retail or service on the ground floor, residential units above, and all of the uses permitted in the underlying zoning districts itself.
What section were you just looking at?
I'm looking at 6.606. It's page 3.
Oh, okay, next.
Sorry, page 3. Thank you. So you might ask, why would a developer even choose to ask for an Emerald overlay? Because their existing C, C1 or C2 allows for a whole bunch of uses, but they're all only commercial. You cannot have mixed use. You cannot have any form of residential use. By taking on the MROD overlay, they get to put in residential uses, they get to put in mixed uses, they get to do this live work condo style units with retail this above, which is currently very, very marketable. You can provide those smaller units for a young working professional who doesn't have a family yet. They don't need huge homes, they just want a small compact unit. You have seen some of those like in downtown Plymouth. If the downtown Plymouth where Main Street intersects with, what is that other street? Farmer Street, where the old Panera used to be there. If you look at the little condos above it, those are all little condos, and they're always occupied by young professionals, single or just married, younger couples who are not yet ready to start a family or something. For them, that small space is enough. They spend more of their time outside the unit. So this MROD overlay allows those developers to put in those kind of uses. What does the township get in exchange? The architectural requirements, the site design elements, the amenities, and the guidelines that are proposed for the MROD are on par with the BROD, if not more stringent.
Can someone in the B-Rod district or the S-Rod district request an M-Rod?
Yes.
Okay.
You can have an overlay, which also confused me.
overlay
That
on
was
an
my
overlay?
first question. I'm like, we already have an overlay. What happens if somebody in one of these parcels requested that? Yes, you can have an overlay on top of an overlay, which is why the two overlay district guidelines are almost near identical. The design standards for both are the same. So you're not going to have a point where should we apply the BROD or MROD? The districts are aligned. In the event there is a more restrictive provision for one of the overlay districts, the more restrictive provision shall apply. So what a developer gets out of this is the ability to provide residential and mixed use in areas where it is currently not permitted, in districts where it's not currently permitted. And what the township gets out of this is higher quality development, higher quality architectural standards, and the textbook example where the MROD will be applicable would be your Lakewood Shopping Plaza, the former Kmart site. The Kmart site is currently zoned C1. They have tried marketing. Ron and I had a meeting with the owners of the property. It is owned by the Showstack group of companies. We met with the Showstacks and with their main marketing person, and they have tried marketing the shopping center forever. They've not been able to find any tenants. It's simply not, the parcel just doesn't work for it. It is master plan mixed use, but mixed use still allows only for a limited number of uses. They were very intrigued by the concept of the MROD. Because what the MROD does it makes them invest a lot more money into the property because they're not residential builders. They will enter into a partnership with a residential builder to provide the mix. If you remember the concept plan, which in your next packet we will include, the concept plan for the property, it showed you small cottage site, it showed you townhouses, it showed you mixed uses, it showed you standalone commercial along I-94 Service Drive and this. It provides for a whole variety and mix of uses, which makes the parcel 10 times more marketable for the developer and desirable. Right now, according to them, no commercial developer or restaurant is interested in building over there because they're like, we don't have any visibility, there's no market here. But if you develop the site, which is a significant amount of acres, you're building townhouses there. You have a ready-made market right there. You put in a little restaurant over there, the people who are there within that development itself provide you with the primary market for it. So the MROD is a textbook case where you can apply this would be the Lakewood Shopping Center. And this is something that they were pretty intrigued at. They said, let us go do our homework. We give them the draft of the district. They said, we are going to look at it and we are going to see how it applies to this and if this is something that we can do, because they've tried. And that's why right now, is there anybody in that shopping plaza besides Little Caesars, Ron? Little Caesars is and their lease is also expiring.
And there's some outbuildings, I think a pet store or something.
There is only one exotic bird store over there.
Yeah, the exotic guy with the birds.
Moving from the bank to Denny's, or are they?
Yes, moving
expanding?
from the bank to Denny's. I think
So they're
they
not
took
taking
over.
both. They're just moving from one site to the other.
I believe they're
Yeah,
gonna
they
be
bought the
opening both.
restaurant.
That's what I was wondering, if they were going to use both, or if they
Oh,
were
they're going to
just-
have two bird stores?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, they're doing something with the restaurant, with Denny.
Yes, they did turn in the plan for Denny's to do the interior remodel and all that. I didn't know there was such a market for two exotic bird stores.
That's what I
Wow.
was
Yeah.
Interesting. But however, Denny's is not part of the Lakewood Shopping Plaza. It's its own parcel. It's not part, the outlots over there that currently exist are actually not part of the shopping plaza. The shopping plaza by itself has got only the Little Caesars.
Disused pole sign is in Ypsilanti, right?
Oh,
The what? There's that highway sign that used to be the Shoney's sign a million years ago.
Yeah, because across the street it is.
It's across the boundary, we checked.
Yep.
so if you look at the guidelines for this, just going over it in brief, these requirements are almost near identical to the BROD, except we removed some of the requirements from BROD, which completely did not make sense. No idea why, but the BROD has got provisions like retail facilities shall provide awnings. 50% of the awning shall be in sun, 50% shall be in shade. I mean, like how? I'm not sure. I mean, like what? There is something called geography, and where the sun rises and sets, it's not like we can do anything. So I'm not sure why that is in there. Maybe it was just.
Awning, and that solves the problem.
So there were some strange. Plaza should be 50-50 in sun. I mean, you can't dictate where the sun's rays hit, right? I mean, depending upon development, if it gets so. We went through, we removed everything that is not logical or reasonable. So this is a clean version. All of the things that are required here in terms of amenities, plazas, courtyards, all of these are very practical. They're very practical, they are relevant, and they are fully implementable. These are some things that the Planning Commission can say, you have met the requirement, you have not met, or the Planning Commission gets flexibility to discuss a modification for it. It's not just something that is arbitrary hanging in the air. This does have the building step backs. If you remember, you amended the BROD recently saying if it's 4-story and above, you need to step it back so you don't just look like it's a tall building.
Right.
So we have all those. We have designs for facades. We have designs for building materials. And we also put in requirements that any residential buildings that are built over here will match the architectural quality of what is required in the MRD. So that kind of ties the two districts in together. In terms of primary colors, sometimes we have struggled with people coming with colors in the BROD, and we are like, well, this is a gray area. It's not really. We try to clean up the gray areas while doing the MROD district itself. We added the same requirements regarding lighting and all that, and the map that is included in the back basically tells you the parcels that can require overlay to an MROD. And these can even be small parcels. You can even make a small parcel with the MROD overlay, because some of these parcels are so small, if they're just developed under the current C1 district requirements, you'll just get a tiny little shopping center with not much character or quality to it. But when they become MROD, even a small site based upon the requirement for amenities, awnings, public space, the site will get elevated. So the MROD will be a very beneficial overlay.
Cool. What about parking? Now, is there a setback for the front of the building? I can't remember. I remember going through and seeing something
Yes.
to where we limit the amount of in-front parking so that you
Yes.
don't have 300 feet of parking lot in front of the building?
Correct. There is some standard of, yes. Parking shall be provided, and then it says, design, pedestrian access, yeah, we have section 6.608. We do provide for shared parking for, was there an issue with shared parking, Sherry? Was there a concern about shared parking? I know you mentioned it previously.
Yeah, it's on 60608, and then it goes general parking, and then 2, shared parking. Shared parking shall be shared. I'm not sure if you mean 2 places together are gonna share one driveway, and then they're gonna split off into it. What do
No.
you mean by shared parking that
So
way?
shared parking is if there are residential units like townhouses and all, and then you have commercial development located. There are offices are also permitted. When the offices close in the evening at 5 o'clock, their parking spaces are not used. A restaurant, instead of providing extra parking with impervious surface area, should be able to share the parking that is not being used by it. When there are non-overlapping hours of usage, users should be able to share parking.
Okay,
That would prevent us, maybe I'll clarify it, non-overlapping hours of
Clarify it
usage.
To be something along the lines of the amount of parking should be commensurate with the use of the area, you know? You gotta capture that, you've gotta capture your intent better. It can't just be called shared parking. You've gotta say, you know, the parking spaces, if there's a restaurant, you know, we should take into account that there is a restaurant, or that there is a business that is only open during certain hours, or that there are people living there.
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
language for that
That
about
needs,
parking.
that needs something.
Dedicated parking?
So like no signs that say
Yes, this
parking
you
for
shall, yes.
bank customers only or whatever.
Yes.
well, and then it says general parking, error reference source not found, so
It's always hard to find a spot, Sharon.
those have gotta be cleaned up, right?
Well, it is cleaned up in the Word document, Sherry. Every time, I actually sent it to Brittany in Word form. For some reason, the moment she converts it to PDF, either just print to PDF or something, it's doing this. This is a cross-reference to another section in our zoning ordinance.
Right.
We've got to figure out how to fix it. I couldn't figure it out, so I sent it to Brittany. I guess she couldn't figure it out either.
Okay, I figured there was an answer to that.
I struggled with it and I just couldn't get it to work. So I sent it to Brittany and Brittany said, I'll take care of it. I guess she couldn't figure it out either.
We're looking to maybe schedule a public hearing on this, right? And
Clean this up, make the corrections to the MRD and this. We will include the other concept plans that we prepared just as an FYI. The concept plans, you're not adopting the concept plans, that's just as an idea. We'll provide all of that information to you as part of your packet next time if you would be ready to schedule this for a public hearing at your December meeting.
I did have just a quick question before, not to, and I apologize, I probably should have asked you this before the meeting. The overlay district boundaries, I know we considered the C-zone properties looking at our zoning map. Did we consider OT? I don't remember if we had that conversation or not.
We did not consider OT because OT is quite widespread in our industrial area. We didn't want the residential to spread so far out of there. We have limited amount of OT spaces. So are you looking at from the concept of,
What I was thinking more towards, because the two big, there's really like three big areas where we have OT. There's Grace Lake, there's Wayne County Community College. There's the property that the University of Michigan owns along Beck Road, which I don't think would probably be appropriate for residential, but, and then there's some areas up near like Ecorse and Beck. But those are the main, and then, of course, you know, we have the west half of the property across the street.
is it master planned also OT, Ron?
It is, it's actually zoned OT.
It is zoned OT. Is it master planned also?
I believe so. I'd have to look.
I will check that because that was one of our concept plans for this property to check. Good point. Okay.
Well,
I keep taking my glasses on and off. I cannot see distance with it, it's blurred, but I cannot see up close without it. I have to keep taking it on and off.
so if we were to recommend scheduling a public hearing, do you feel like we're ready to schedule a public hearing
Yes,
from
please.
your point of view?
Yes.
And if we were to do that, and we were to read it a little more closely now that we understand and had the explanation, how, when could we reasonably still send you updates or questions and have it be reflected in the public hearing?
So the next planning commission meeting for the
December 10th.
December 10th. So we have to publish the notice in the newspapers 15 days before that. And when we publish the notice, we say that a draft of it is available. So whatever draft is ready at that time will be present at the front counter. I can bring an edited copy to you at the meeting for discussion. And if the planning commission is comfortable, you can take an action, but there is no requirement that you have to take action. If at the December meeting, you hear all the comments and you say, okay, this is all good based on public input, make a few more tweaks, and in January we will take action, that is also perfectly fine.
2 weeks. before.
If you could
the
get me your
Thanksgiving.
comments within the next 2 weeks, I will make sure before the public hearing notice goes out, those comments are in that draft.
And we expect in a public hearing, we may get comments and there may be changes anyway. So it's not set in stone just because we schedule the public hearing.
Yes.
I think we ought to schedule a public hearing.
I think so too. Do we need a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we schedule that public hearing at the closest available date, whenever that is. December 10th.
We got a motion and a support to schedule the public hearing. Any discussion?
Yeah, how long is that agenda gonna be? I just wonder if it isn't too much.
I haven't seen the draft yet.
So,
Huh?
How sensitive is it? That's the big question too. How
I
time
just think that
sensitive.
agenda is gonna be so long.
It's going to be busy.
for the December 10th meeting, just so everybody's aware, we have the election of officers, we have a 2026 meeting schedule. We're going to have a public hearing on a amendment to the conditional rezoning agreement for our next energy at Ashley Capital. We're planning on having a public hearing for a special land use preliminary site plan for Elk Car Wash on Belleville Road. We're going to have preliminary site plan approval for US Signal on Tyler Road and Haggerty. We're going to have a request for site plan extension for Brookwood Housing, which is the housing development that's off Tyler Road. And then now, potentially, we will have the Mishta public hearing. We will have the Fernari site plan extension. And
Oh,
then
boy.
we will have the Chahal trucking.
I just think that's a lot of public hearings. I just assume, I
That
wish
is,
we-
that is a 5 to 6 hour meeting
that
agenda.
we,
Can
can
we
we
just push it?
schedule?
What is the time sensitivity on the Mishta?
We did receive an extension on it, so I can push the approval, the final reports and all that until May. So if we do schedule a public hearing for,
January?
what's
If
our
we move
meeting?
it to January, then the planning commission will have ample time to get me all your comments so that I do all the revised draft and I will distribute it to you well ahead of the meeting for additional reviews. That way you will have a clean draft to work off of on the,
Yeah,
I don't think we can do a public hearing for this with all those.
February 14th.
Jan 14th? Okay.
That sounds
I
better.
made a motion earlier that I'd like to revise. I think that we should have the public hearing scheduled for January 14th, such that we have time to get the edits in place.
I'll re-support it.
It's a long meeting.
Any other discussions on the motion?
We got 2 long ones in a row.
Unless we have to have it, I think we can do a voice vote.
We can just do that.
Public comment. There's a public comment line on this one.
Public comment?
On the Mishta discussion, yeah.
I don't know, it's on the agenda.
Okay, do we have any public comment? Okay. So public hearing, January 14th?
Yes.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing, January 14th.
Nice work.
Yes.
I must confess that while writing it, I confused myself so many times, I had to walk away from my desk and come back to it. Because it was
Too many
like,
single letter rods.
it was not only overlay, it was, you're talking about floating overlays, then you're talking about what happens when an overlay goes on top of an overlay. And I would finish having the conversation, I would hang up on the phone, I was like, pick up the phone again. What did we discuss?
What overlay?
One more.
Okay, item number 5 for tonight. We have another discussion, commissioners. Car wash regulations. We are to discuss a car wash ordinance, proposed amendments. Staff?
So our favorite topic, car washes. So on October 7th, the Board of Trustees passed a moratorium saying no more applications for car washes for the next 6 months, and that is till April 7th, 2025. But we wanted to bring this discussion up sooner rather than later. The moratorium does not impact applications that are already in the process, which is why L Car Wash is coming before you next month, because they applied well before that moratorium went into place.
And it should say April 26th.
26th? Okay, thank you.
We certainly don't want to try to backtrack to April 25.
Nope. I just thought 6 months and I did 6 months, so April 12th, thank you. So the township is very concerned about the number of car washes that we are getting, especially along the Belleville Road corridor. I mean, everything seems to be coming along the Belleville Road corridor. There are lots of impacts. You have high volumes of traffic, you have automotive-centric use, which basically has got no pedestrian walkway, whatever. Belleville Road overlay is our core downtown district, which is intended to be pedestrian-centric with amenities, and car washes are about as anti-pedestrian-centric as possible. So the moratorium was placed to give staff an opportunity to go over and discuss this. We did a little bit of checking, and so currently we have 2 car washes on Belleville Road. One is Zippy, that is south of I-94 Service Drive. The other was Waterworks, that is right on Belleville Road itself. Then we also have this L Car Wash coming in, which would essentially make it 3 car washes within 1 mile of each other. Then we have Zach's Car Wash, which is located on Main Street in the city of Belleville. That's about 1 mile south of Zippy. And now you have 4 car washes in the same general area. They're literally pop.
But then you keep going a little bit further down Belleville. There's like 6 in a row from Michigan Avenue all the way to the touch-free one.
And
Yes.
Rawsonville, or just off Rawsonville, out
Right on.
Yeah, but right on Belleville Road through town,
Grove.
you got a car wash
Yeah.
on the south side of the tracks. And then Sumter just opened a
Yeah,
car wash
touch-free.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
on Bemis and Sumter Road.
Row for
And then, of course, Canton just opened up that quick pass car wash right at Geddes and this. So we are looking mainly at the Belleville Road corridor because that's where all the traffic is funneling, and we have a lot of car washes. Even though only 2 of these, with the 3rd pending application, are located within the township, essentially the traffic from all of these impacts the township because Belleville traffic funnels through the township. Sumter traffic, when they come, the traffic goes through the township to reach there. So we wanted to take a look at it more. While I was doing research, I came across actually an article. It's an environmental study about the consequences of car washes, and I cited where it came from. And it definitely says when you have multiple car washes close together, the runoffs, cumulative runoffs, such as oil, grease, heavy metals, it may end up being higher in that corridor than if just one facility were present. Essentially, obviously, each time you're washing your car, whatever's there in the underbody, the salt, the oils, everything is getting washed. Now, all of that collectively is going. It's different if you have one car wash and then you have a restaurant and then you have like just, a regular retail store. This is essentially washing all of the impurities and the contaminants and piling it up together in one area itself. Car washes typically are completely impervious surface. All we are looking at is an access drive. We are looking at multiple drive-through lanes because now they have all this touchless path. Then you come out, you have the driving lane. Essentially, all of it is paved. There is so much impervious surface area. We already have increasing flooding with all the storms we get. We are adding way more pavement to it, which is another problem.
Pedestrian-friendly, they shut down at a certain time and it's just an empty space with a building.
So additional input, I think the impact of what happens when you have so much cumulative, not just stormwater runoff, so much stuff coming into your sewers at the exact same time from a smaller area, more intensive commercial uses, what is the impact of it? I think some insight from an engineering perspective would be helpful because I'm not sure what that it is. I'm sure there are impacts, but I don't know exactly how to quantify them, so I think that will help. Now, the Belleville Road corridor is almost entirely C1, which is general business, or C2, which is highway business. And these 2 districts allow for the most intensive commercial uses that are permitted in the township. I mean, basically anything that is drive-through is allowed in this corridor. That's what it was intended for. So we have large box stores, we have Menards, we have Walmart, we have grocery store like Aldi's, then you have fast food, you have McDonald's, you have Taco Bell, then we have restaurants like Applebee's, Morning Bell, I was about to say Twisted Roasted, Morning Bell. We have so many of these. And access management standards in the BROD have basically helped us consolidate this, right? At every plan that has been in the B-Road that's come before the Planning Commission, you have required that cross-access, so people don't have to keep going out onto Belleville Road to turn. Now, the problem with a car wash is, how are you going to do cross-access? Their cars are coming out of their wash tunnel, right? You're trying to provide cross-access to the north or to the south, and now you're telling people need to cut in. That's an automated machine. That the rollers are going to throw that car out in front, irrespective of who's crossing. Now we have a problem. We cannot ask for cross-access over there because we are going to create a traffic issue.
Why can't we ask that? How come they can't build a car wash on a big enough lot that supports it?
Parallel to the.
I can ask it. Why can't I ask it? I
You can,
ask it.
you can very well ask that.
All right.
Make them build back farther from the road.
Absolutely. If they don't have enough space to build a car wash safely, they shouldn't be building a car wash there.
We need that cross-access. to ma-
Cross-access and a B-Rod's required. It doesn't get waived.
Now, this is before you for discussion. Basically, we are going to amend the ordinance like we did for gasoline filling stations. I mean, there's just these many we can sustain. And now we have separation requirements. We are considering maybe separation standards between car washes, the number of car washes within a specific set area. We need to define what kind of area that might be. We say enough. This and no more we need to have. Requirement for submitting a study on environmental impacts of runoff. And it cannot just be like, we think the runoffs are going to have no impact and just printing off an article and taking it. No, they need to do an actual environmental study for the site. There are communities, not in Michigan, elsewhere in the US, that require that for car washes. They have to hire an environmental engineer to do the study. Just like traffic requires traffic engineer, you need to get an environmental engineer on board. Restricting access onto a major thoroughfare. You cannot keep coming in and out of a major thoroughfare like Belleville Road. We can restrict that because that is part of our access management. Limiting impervious surface area. You cannot have so much pavement. We can put a limit on that. The sixth one is something that I think the Planning Commission needs to consider for all projects. Traffic impact study to be conducted by the township's engineers, not the applicant's engineer. I have never seen an applicant's traffic engineer ever tell me that they need to make improvements
I thought
to
that
the
was just
roadways.
me who had never seen that.
It's not just Van Buren. 26 years, countless communities I've worked in. There are a handful of traffic engineers who do all the reports. I have never once seen them. I'm like, I am telling you that I've physically driven. I'm at the traffic light for 2 minutes and 30 seconds through 16 cycle changes. We will add 400 more units. There shall be no change.
Well, the intersection was already graded a D, and this won't make it less than a D because the scale stops at D.
No, the answer I got was, it's already at an F. We are not going to make it any worse than it was. I
We're
was
not
like,
going to make it worse than an F because F is as low as it goes.
now let's like just put it to. So I would like that. Of course, if the traffic study is done by the township's engineers, the applicant will have to pay the township engineer for that. This is not something the township will.
I was gonna say, yeah, is that.
The township will not pay. You
engineers,
need.
Consultants, whatever, right?
It's just like,
I don't
it's
know.
not an impartial study, is it? I mean, how are we going to say it's an impartial study? It's like the fox guarding the hen house. I mean, it cannot possibly be. Somebody is paying your bills and you're writing the report. I mean, they must, I don't deny they are very, very
no-
talented. They're very, very qualified. But I honestly,
Consequence for the traffic study person if they get it wrong. What's they wrote a report? It's not going to change anything. What's the consequence if they're wrong? There's nothing. There's nothing there.
Who monitors
Who monitors
that?
it?
so are you on board with that? Because I've been wanting to put that in the ordinance for the longest time.
A lot of sense that you're doing a study of your own community rather than someone going out and doing one in their favor.
And then there was an article in the Planning Commission, or the Planning Magazine that comes, it was a couple months ago, about at some point in time, you have to be concerned with the residents you're serving, not the developer.
Yeah.
And if anything, on this particular item, there's been more controversy on Facebook, on whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into Myers, been at a restaurant when I've been stopped and said, you have to care what we want, and we don't need another car wash.
Me too.
How do you
Me
address
too.
those
What were you
issues?
thinking? That's what I get asked. What were you
Exactly.
thinking? I'm
So-
thinking it was allowed by the law.
Yep.
So here's the thing, car washes are a special land use. As a special land use, they have to meet subjective standards. Is there a demonstrated need for the use in the community? So the applicant needs to demonstrate why you need one right across the street from another. I mean, what happens if you don't wash your car, it's not going to run? I mean, like what is, like, things are not going to fall apart if you don't wash your car, is what I'm trying to say. But I can understand. That said, we are all for providing, encouraging development that provides for what the community needs. The residents need restaurants. They shouldn't have to go out to eat in a good restaurant all the way to Canton or all the way to Novi or Northville. You should have those facilities over here for the restaurants. They should be able to just drive 5 minutes from their house and have that.
Right.
That said, these kind of uses, just how many? Just how many? So I do want to put together language that I will have the township attorney review so that it's legally structured soundly. But I want to make it that if somebody so badly wants to be there in this community, they actually demonstrate that without their use, that community is missing out on something.
Yeah.
We have to protect the residents, absolutely. And
That's
but, you know,
right.
we have business owners too. You know, the problem with having one car wash is a business, 2 car washes is a competitive business. A car wash every quarter mile means nobody has a business. They'll all go out of business.
And that's the
Right.
thing, right? Once a car wash goes out of the business, you don't know if the parcel becomes a brownfield because there are now contaminants in it, right? It might be redevelopable, but for what use? What uses can fit in there? Is there going to be an extra bar for the next developer to jump through because now they have to clean up the property in order to be able, with all those contaminants running in?
Can we create them to have a bond to protect that land?
Deconstruction bonds. Because those buildings, once, you know.
Just like cell towers.
Yeah.
Or just like the old quarter-operated spray car washes that we used to have all up and down Belleville Road in the south part of the township. They all went out of business once that equipment stopped being the state-of-the-art, once the tunnel ones came along. And then we had cinder block buildings with no infrastructure that very, very few of them end up getting redeveloped. They sit there. Hey, you could put a car wash in there if you could only get the same old equipment, which you can't get anymore and didn't work as a business in the first place. I think there's one car wash down, might be in Belleville, that got repurposed into a small office space. I think it's the only car wash I've ever seen that's been redeveloped. Every other one just sits there empty and is an eyesore. They ought to have a deconstruction bond. The building isn't useful for anything once the equipment that the building was built around no longer is functionally obsolete. They should have to take the building down.
Since we are discussing car washes as relates to the Belleville Road corridor, which triggered this whole thing, I know a little while ago, the Planning Commission had some discussion about we should not be so rigid on the Belleville Road corridor color palette, and maybe we should relax it. I would advise against it at this point. I think your red brick and your earth tones have gotten you a quality. Relax it. I have seen this happen in the past 2 months in a couple of other where they relaxed it and it had unintended consequences. Too late to close the door.
Why were we talking about relaxing it?
We were, because we were saying, why should everything, there was some conversation a while ago about why should everything be red brick or brown brick or earth tones? I think we have an established character now. It makes it look, yes, Belleville Road is not a traditional downtown, it's a 5-lane downtown road, but the quality of the buildings is beautiful over here. I mean, you have the Applebee's and all the newer buildings that are coming in also. Seeing Menards that size being built fully of red brick to pick up the quality, the Walmart, I do not want us to make a change that say, let us be creative and open. Next thing is the first building that comes in might end up being a cooler gray tone or something. Doesn't look bad.
Chick-fil-A red brick?
It is red brick, all red brick.
Absolutely.
And that is the thing, right? When we say, okay, the first building that comes with maybe a shade of gray, it doesn't look bad, it looks nice. From gray, it is a short step to darker gray to black. And from there, you have changed the whole character. That's the problem, because you cannot specify the colors. You will say cool or neutral, and then the argument starts. What do you consider cool and
Gray
neutral?
is actually a light shade
Right
of
now,
red.
we are warm and earth tones. You cannot argue earth tones. Earth tones is beige, beige, red, browns. That's it. So I would,
I think one of the things we were talking about in the Belleville Road Overlay District, the reason it came up was developers were saying that trying to build the building out of red brick, actual red brick, was cost prohibitive. Yes, it is. It's expensive. But they were proposing other red brick, newer, modern, hey, that red, it still looks like red brick, but it's only about that thick and it doesn't fall off anymore. And could we use that?
yes, face
And that
brick and
facing,
stuff like that.
then
Okay.
that might be something we would want to
Yes.
consider. But I think the color palette, the red brick thing is not, we shouldn't change on that. I like it.
Thin brick?
I don't know what it's
Face brick?
called. I'm not an architect.
Thin brick, yeah, with the foam behind.
Is it durable?
Well, I've seen it peel off and fall off,
Ooh.
off surfaces,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we should change the standard right now, personally.
Mortar,
I wouldn't want
mortared
to
brick.
touch our Belleville Road corridor, B-Rod, as it stands today, because it's worked well for us, and now, right now, the few parcels that are left, the development pressure is much higher. The kind of applications we are getting is from corporate chains, and they will fight. I would rather have a consistent, Van Buren Township has
Yeah.
been consistent in applying its rules,
Yeah.
so you can come and argue how much ever you want to. These are our rules we have held. We didn't relax. I don't want you to be put in the position, the planning commission being told, oh, you
Well, he
buckled
did it,
over
yeah,
here.
so we
Walmart
should be
is
able
one of
to.
my pride and joy from 2000. You were there, right, Sherry?
Yeah.
When Walmart, first brick Walmart.
With regard to the car wash
Fir-
regulations
that's
and
first.
it being 8 o'clock,
Yes.
I would like to see, I would like to see you come up with definitely some ordinances around how the wastewater is handled. I thought those car washes had a requirement where they had to keep the wastewater in a tank and process it, but maybe they don't. That should be, definitely the environmental impact should be part of the ordinance,
Okay.
including not letting car wash water directly go out onto the roads.
Yeah.
Something we talked about a lot with Zippy, the new one coming in. And that should be an
That is a problem,
ordinance.
because every time you come out of the car wash, it's on the road.
Yeah, if you don't dry the car, or if the dryers don't work, yeah, it goes on the road. And that is surfactant, that's soap going out on the
I
road.
haven't seen one yet that doesn't happen.
So that ought to be something we should codify, because that's annoying when it does happen. We should also codify the odor. Those places smell. I'm sorry, I haven't come across a car wash that doesn't stink. They smell like whatever that new car spray, hot carnival wax or whatever it is. That can't be good for you. You can't, if you had to live across the street from something that smelled like hot carnival wax all day, that's not protecting our residents.
Carnuba.
Whatever it's called, it's horrible. You know what I'm saying though, right?
No,
Odor.
I don't. I haven't washed my car in forever. Rain takes care of it, but I shall go through
But
one
you should
just to
go
smell
check it out, because sometimes they smell pretty bad. I would think consider the possibility of having a deconstruction bond, or demonstrating that the building can be repurposed as something other than a car wash would be important.
But I still think we should set a limit as to how many you're gonna have in a mile.
Just as much as the
And
gas
that-
stations,
yes.
100%, 100%.
These comments are in addition to what I have already listed over here.
Not just within the township. If there is a car wash 1 mile north of the township border in Canton, or a half a mile north, well, count that car wash. That's too close.
Use a radius
Yeah,
within.
Radius to any
Even for,
business. yeah.
gas stations too. The radius included Romulus and Sumter and Ypsilanti, and it included. It's about radius. We can't have like gas station stop dead over here and 2 gas stations on our neighboring community. The radius works the same. Okay, I will fix.
I think we should have some ordinances around this. I think we have a problem.
I don't know how you could ever get it so they would not put water on the road when you drive out. Because that's
Farther
coming
back.
from the under your car,
So
and there's
some
no
of-
car wash that blows under your car to get rid of that.
There is, I read, where did I read it? I read it, or it was in the Canton one. I reviewed the site plan for that. So when you come out of the car wash, there is not just a drying lane, there is like a drying thing where the water drips out.
Supposed to drip
And
out.
it's supposed to suck it out, and then they had several drying spots before you can leave.
Where you can dry your car.
Yes, where you can park and dry your
Right,
car.
and of course, the waterworks, they have that now too. They've traditioned, and they even put towels out there so you could stop there and dry it. But there's still a certain amount of water. Anybody that just comes through the car wash and goes out is leaving water from there all the way up to almost the next driveway.
Oh, wow. And that becomes ice in the winter.
And, yes, And in the wintertime, you gotta be careful sometimes. There's usually enough salt on the highway that it isn't a problem, but it could be a problem.
It could. Okay. Especially if you get a fresh dusting of snow on top of the ice and you don't see it.
Right.
But I mean, just not, letting the car have a long runway out of the tunnel is often enough to let, I mean, if they have a streak of water on their own property and it's being siphoned into a wastewater handling system, super, I don't care. It's when they, just like the waterworks one. I don't think they did that on purpose, it's just as how it worked out.
just
A
how
lot
it
of
works
cars,
out, yeah.
it's too close to the road, they turn
Right.
off and it drips. Makes it
But this
drippy.
guy, the other new one up there hasn't got that much space either. Unless you stop and wipe your car off, but if you don't stop and you're just coming out, you're coming right there on the road. You're gonna put water on the road that's coming from people coming from the clinic.
From the urgent care.
Yeah,
Yeah, at least I don't think it's gonna go onto Belleville Road, though, because of the way they come out. They don't come out directly onto Belleville Road, they enter from Belleville Road,
Right,
then they
they
go
don't.
back towards the,
They have to go back.
back
out.
towards the emergency place, the urgent care, and then they have to take that whole driveway out, so their driveway might be wet, but I don't think it's gonna impinge on Belleville Road.
No.
That's what we talked about when we
right.
granted it.
I don't know, but there will be water on somebody's road.
I will bring back a draft for you to discuss and then we can find, we still have time, but I'll bring back a draft.
Next meeting.
We don't have enough on the agenda, let's do it.
Okay, we're to the general discussion and updates. I did attend the Michigan Association of Planners Convention, picked up some very good information. I was in 4 different seminars while I was there, I believe, and some very good information concerning, especially dealing with alternative energy and looking at ordinances and what to deal with as far as alternative energy is concerned. It was put on by a gentleman that was teaching a course on writing basically writing ordinances or into planning at Michigan State. So
Who was it?
I can't remember his
okay.
name. I'd have to go back and look at the agenda. But some very good information as well as some others. So it was very informative. Thank you to the township. That's all I've got. I've announced the planning commission meetings for our neighboring communities. Do we have anything else? Anybody else would like to bring up?
Yeah, actually, I would. I know Ron and I had a brief discussion, but there are soil boring rigs actively drilling on the property, the farmland along Haggerty Road adjacent to the community college. Yep, they've been doing it the last several days. They started on the weekend. They've been doing it. They have a tent out there, water. Conti Electric was out there as well yesterday. They had their rig out there, which I'm guessing they're not exactly looking, they're looking a little differently at it. Obviously, on the electrical side, my guess is substations. But anyway, that's happening. So I don't know if there's any more to share.
Not at this time.
But when you see drilling rigs, they're moving fast.
Something's bound to happen, I would assume.
Yeah, something's bound to happen.
Okay. Anybody else? Then I would entertain that elusive motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I support that motion.
Seeing as we have a motion and a support, and there's no discussion allowed, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I don't believe anybody's opposed. Meeting is adjourned.
Lunch for the next meeting, we're gonna get hungry.